daughter that the sea dragon loves is the empress who received the blessing of the seas and the mistress of the great empire of Atlantis, Terrassa Neptunos Atlantis. Mage Kaortan reports that their country will exist forever, and the first general claims that he will be with them until the last days. The empress asks whether he takes the oath as her henchman or as her lover. The magician kisses the woman on the hand and talks about how he is both a servant and a loving person. The empress says that today she needs him more than ever, and asks what her friend thinks about it. Doom claims to the empress that he is loyal to her, as he is, and she replies that she knows this very well, because they are the only ones who remain on her side. At this time, the main character thought that it would always be like this. However, she does not understand why these two are together. Suddenly, the empress overheard a conversation between the mage and the first general. Doom, screaming, tells the mage that he knows about his feelings for him, and then tells him that he loves him. Dumwoo claims that he loves him, so his heart is ready to explode at any moment. Kaortan says that he knows this very well and then hugs the man. Seeing all this, the empress was very surprised, because she did not understand how her concubine and her friend could love each other. The empress claims that Kortan said that he loved her and she does not understand how he could betray her like that. And at that moment, she thought that she does not believe it, and thinks that she misunderstood. Doom turns to Her Majesty and tells her to never forgive him. She says she hoped that wasn't the case, and in the end, they both betrayed her. The general says that since she has learned about all this, it is better that way, because they will be able to finish with it sooner. The magician grabs the empress by the hand and says that he must show her something right now. The main character, surrounded by flails, asks if he wanted her to see this. And she doesn't understand how they can do this to her, and how they dare lie to her. Atlantis claims that she trusted them and loved them so much. Kaortan asks for forgiveness from Her Majesty, and upon hearing this, the empress asks if this is his entire answer. The magician explains that he simply wanted to protect the man he loves. However, the main character claims that her lover and longtime friend betrayed her. And then she asks why it all came to this. Suddenly, the empress realized that they had planned all this from the very beginning. And at that moment, she thought that she would make them regret it, and she would never forgive them both. Until the life in this world fades away, she would curse them. After these words, the Empress of Atlantis was sealed. In chains of sadness and despair, she led 1,000 years, and she understands that she will not forgive them for this and will take revenge if she had another chance. The main character understands that probably at that moment, someone was able to hear her voice and the seal that bound her began to crack. The Empress does not understand what the sounds are and thought that it was rain, and she also smelled blood. And then she realized that the seal was broken. The main character saw that the maid was wounded and the man with the sword was forced to give the Duke's daughter away. The Empress does not understand what is happening. And at that time, she thought that this is how her second life began. And the spell of Kaortan is destroyed. And also this chain no longer binds her. And she began to feel everything around and returned to Atlantis again. The main character understands that she is just a child, and at that time, she thought that it was just a dream. The maid holds a little girl in her arms and says that she must carry her to the Imperial palace. And so the miss must be patient for a little while. Hearing this, the girl does not understand why she addressed her like that. At this point, the knight claims that it is time for her to surrender and then puts his sword to her throat. He also offers that if she allows the girl to be taken alive, he will let her live. However, the maid, screaming, tells him that she is not going to give this child to him, and then asks if he knows who she is. The robber says that this girl's name is Nicephorus Rician, and then again he insists that she give him the daughter of Duke Rician. The man reports that the Duchess desperately uttered her name before her death. The maid heard this and covered the girl's ear and screamed at the robber to cover it. The robber, screaming, says that he will send her to her mother. But the maid suddenly snatches the knife from him and wounds the robber. At this time, the main character thought that this girl is not just a servant, and these mercenaries are hunting her. The girl understands that if she were in her previous body, they would have been wiped off the face of the earth. And her last memory of Terrassa's life was a dream in which the Empress, who was abandoned, was betrayed by Kaortan and Doom. The magician said that her corpse would never decompose, and that is why she is a pathetic and insignificant, useless Empress. The main character remembers that she saw this terrible dream every night when she was chained for 1,000 years. And so she decided for herself that she would definitely survive and take revenge on everyone. The robber attacked the maid and screaming, he says that she should give them the child. And at that moment, the little girl falls to the ground. And at that moment, she thought that she doesn't care, because she was reborn again. and she is in someone else's body. The little girl understands that the only thing she must do now is to help that maid, and she must definitely survive. The main character thinks about the fact that she doesn't want to die again. The girl concentrated and used her magic, and at that time she thought about what she had done. The drip attack helped deal with the bandits who fell to the ground. And at that time the girl thought that if they do not breathe, then the attack will not work. And then she smiles and says that they are little bastards. At this time, the surprised maid asks the place if she really saved her. The maid picks the girl up and then hugs her and says that everyone said she was special. And at that moment, the girl thought that it wasn't like she saved her, because she understands that this is the only way she could stay alive. The maid says that everyone was very worried about her, and after her prediction, they became the target of many. Suddenly, the main character smelled the sea. The maid does not understand what happened and asks about it. When the maid turned around, she saw a big wave, and at that moment she screamed that they had to run. The little girl starts to smile, and the maid asks her to stop being so happy. And at that moment, the main character thought that the sea felt her aura, and for the first time in 1,000 years, she of course understands that it is so happy. Racing asked in surprise how this could be, and then thought that it could be the power of Little Mistress. And at that time, she thought about whether she could say that this girl was really hers. The main character understands that, to be more precise, it came to feel Terrasa's energy. And the maid says that she wants it to be her power. And then she says that, as it was said in the prophecy, she should be the princess of dragons. The little girl heard this and did not understand what it meant. And the maid said that she was probably tired and therefore suggested that she sleep a little. The surprised main character does not understand what all this means. And at this time, she remembers that her father defended Adele and ordered her to take Sorceress to the emperor. Ninas took her Malishka in her arms and said that she absolutely must survive. At this time, the main character thought that all of Sorceress's memories flashed in her head, or someone killed her parents, and her mother barely pulled her out of there. The girl understands that this may be her reincarnation, since she does not complete her past life because of the seal. Whether she understands that Terrasa is her, and Sorceress is also her. The little lady doesn't understand why she can't get used to this little body. And she knows it's very cute, but she's uncomfortable moving. The main character reflects on the fact that she is the great empress of Atlantis and has become a small child the size of a seed. The lady understands that it is good that she is the youngest daughter of a duke, and for her this is already a good start. While they were walking home, the girl saw the capital, which was very familiar to her. Hey, she understands that in her past life, this country was her empire, which she built herself. The capital of Atlantis. At this time, the main character realized that this place was the country of those bastards who betrayed her. The little lady understands that from the empress, she has turned into the daughter of a duke. But when she looked at the walls and saw a lot of cobwebs on the windows, she does not understand what kind of relationship she has with a noble family. But only one thing calms her down, that the sea is nearby. And she will definitely take revenge on the dirty traitors Cowerton and Doom. A maid comes into the room and asks if the miss is awake. Then she hugs the girl and says that she probably feels strange being in an unfamiliar place. The maid tells her that she needs to eat, and if she tries hard, she will grow up healthy. Hearing this, the main character thinks that she needs to grow up quickly, and in order to take revenge, she must find out what spell was cast on her. At this time, the girl thought that she already wanted to try the Imperial food. The maid looked at the girl and said that her miss was clenching her fists cutely and shaking her head well. The maid says that if Mrs. Ninnis saw her, she would be so happy. And then she says that her older brothers will be back soon, because she heard that the war with the Yorgu pirates ended the day before yesterday. Suddenly, the main character thought that she did not understand how this could be, because she felt the aura of the sea dragon. After all, she understands that this is not Atlantis. When the little lady saw the man, she thought that he had hair like Cowerton. But when he came closer, she realized that it was not him. And she wondered who he was. The maid greeted His Majesty, and the man asked if this girl was the last offering. Then he claimed that she was the spitting image of her mother. His Majesty asks if she witnessed the last moments of the Rasayan couple. The maid replies that she was only thinking about saving Miss, and she doesn't know what happened to her masters. The Emperor asks what she said, that they are hunting her because of a prophecy. And at that moment, he thought that they are beasts. At this time, the little girl does not understand what happened, as she has difficulty breathing. His Majesty says that they will hold the funeral of the Duke and Duchess on the return of their sons and on a suitable day, and he says that she can attend. The maid heard this and thanked His Highness. And he says that perhaps this child will be able to cure the madness of the young dragons, and she is very important to them, and therefore the maid must take good care of her. Heard this, the main character does not understand what they are talking about and what kind of offering. And she understands that it is not a person at all, but what kind of medicine this is. The girl knows that fortunately, the crown prince has 3 options, and he should not include her in this list. The little lady knows that if the dragons show signs of madness, you should add sea urchin and seaweed to the water, then boil it and drink it. And she doesn't understand what the problem is and why they don't do it. And I wonder why they are so attached to her. Nicephorus looked at His Majesty and thought that he was very similar to Carton, but their characters were completely different. And she waved her hands and wondered who he was. The emperor approached the girl's bed and asked if she was interested in who he was. And at that moment, she looked at him and thought that, of course, she was interested. The man says he is a longtime friend of Carson, Rician, his father, and her mother, Ninnis Rician, and he is a monk of the Caortan Empire. Hearing this, the girl was surprised, and then thought that she had found his bastard. And at that time, she thought that he had also named the empire after himself. The main character reflects on the fact that if he wanted to gain power so much, he should have asked, because she would not have refused him. And it turns out that this emperor is a descendant of Caortan. The little lady remembers that the magician and Doom loved each other so much, and she wonders if he still wanted to have a child with another woman. His Highness takes the girl in his arms, and at that time she thought that they were brothers and she was in pain. And then she began to cry and scream. The man does not understand why she is behaving this way and asks about it. However, the servants do not know what to answer, and the girl at this time thought, why can't he not understand this? After all, he does not know how to control his strength at all. Caortan says that it is unlikely that she is hungry or bored, and then asks if he can change her diaper. However, the little girl did not stop crying, and His Majesty thought that she was expressing her love for him in her own way. Hearing this, she thought that he was talking nonsense. The emperor says that she is so cute and interesting, and she reacts to his every word as if she understands. The butler reports that she is just a child, and he does not understand how she can understand speech. His Highness asks in surprise how he dares to contradict him. At this time, the butler, screaming that he has sinned and therefore asks for forgiveness from His Highness. The man puts the girl in bed and then says that he can't understand why he scares her too. And at that moment, the girl made a serious PM. And the gentleman says that it turns out she's not afraid of him. The main character does not understand who he is, so that she is afraid of him. And then she looked at him angrily. At this time, he smiled and said that he understood her, because she is clearly not shy at the sight of him. The emperor says that he can do the very thing, and then plays with the girl. And at that time, she thought about what horror she had just seen. The man remembers that when her mother was pregnant, she told Agrio that if they were to leave their children too early, he should protect them, so that they would not become an offering and so that Nicephorus could lift the curse from the Imperial family. His Highness washed his face and thought about how he couldn't do anything this time, and the last days of his sister and the death of his friends, and he couldn't protect anyone. The emperor asks the servant what is happening in the palace of sacrifices and what happened to the child. The butler replies that they had a quiet night and there were no other attacks. The servant asks if His Highness really thinks that the little girl is a dragon princess, and then says that if she suddenly becomes, but at that moment the emperor, screaming, orders him to be silent, and then asks if he apparently decided to die at his hands today. The Caortan Imperial family has been cursed for 1,000 years. They are tormented by hallucinations that provoke them to murder. And this is a terrible pain that covers the entire body. All subsequent emperors were struck with madness, and the Imperial family began to make offerings, one of which was the Duchy of Rician. Rician's ancestor was the first and only dragon princess who could cure the emperor's madness. And before she died, she said the following: "And many centuries later, a new dragon princess will be born. And then the sins of the Caortan Imperial family will be forgiven." And this became a legend of the empire. Everyone was waiting for the new dragon princess, and as soon as a child was born into the Rician family, he was locked in the palace and sacrificed to stop the madness of the crown prince. But even after all this, the parents entrusted this child to the emperor. At this time, His Majesty was thinking about whether they could earn forgiveness for their sins. Then he thought that if she really was the dragon princess, then on the day the crown prince turned 19, he would go to the offering palace. Then all their sins would be forgiven. His Majesty remembers that the girl he held in his arms was just a cutie, and her sweet, chubby cheeks, those indignant eyes and pouty lips, all of this is her charm. The man remembers that children smiled when adults did this, because he read about it in books. And at that time, he thought that the book was written by a liar, and he must be caught. At this time, the little girl began to scream, and at this time, she thought about how he could abuse the power given to him. His Majesty asks the girl what he can do to make her smile. Then he says that she looks at him as if she wants something. The man says that if she smiles, he will decorate this room and add more servants. And at that moment, the girl thought that all this is unnecessary and made a sad face. The prayer maid looked at the girl and said that she was asking her to smile. The main character remembered the words of the magician that if she does this, the whole world will bow its head at her feet, and she reflects on the fact that they are like leeches and very annoying. Then says drunk. At this time, the master asks what she just said, and the butler claims that she said papa. And the maid also confirms his words. And at this time, the girl does not understand when she said such a thing. The servant says that she considers him her father. And at this time, the main character understands that this is not so. His Majesty looked at the girl and thought that when she smiled like that, she became even more like her mother. And then he gave her a toy and said that when a child was born in Kawartan, they gave him a toy turtle so that the baby would live a long life. At this time, the main character thought that he had locked her in the offering palace and wanted her to live long. The gentleman strokes the girl's head and tells her to take care of this toy. And then he says that only he will be able to look into the face of her parents without remorse. When His Majesty left the room, he had a very strong headache, and he thought that he had symptoms of madness. And also at that time, he heard voices that he should kill, tear out their throats and crush everyone. After these voices, he washed his face, and the servants saw that not everything was all right with their master and offered him to take him to the palace. His Majesty claims that they are all servants, and he knows perfectly well that they are Roxborough's spies. And he understands this and has brought them here on purpose, and they smile and do not even suspect anything. The maid turns to His Majesty and claims that it is a misunderstanding. But he claims that since they have verified that she is alive, they will probably try to send assassins again. The gentleman claims that since he has bouts of madness, they are just right as an offering. Hearing this, the servants point their fingers at each other and scream, saying that he is a spy. However, he did not hear them and sent each and everyone to another world. Kaortan wipes his face and tells Ninus not to worry, as he will protect her until the end. At this time, the maid played with the girl and said that her miss was simply amazing, and she already understood the words and did not even cry, and therefore she knew that nothing else could be expected from a member of the Rosian family. At this time, the girl thought that she did not want to see how she tried to console her. The maid tells her that she is more talented than her brothers. And then she tells her that they are, of course, unsurpassed individuals and were able to show their abilities at such a young age, and perhaps she is the only one. And her brothers will immediately understand this. The maid tells the girl that if she is tired, she will put her to bed. And at that moment, the main character thought that she never had brothers. The maid put the girl on the bed and then tells her to sleep and close her eyes. And since she is the sweetest girl in Carton. However, the little lady does not want to sleep and thinks that it is too early for her to go to bed, as she wants to learn about many things. The next morning, the young gentleman touches the girl's cheeks and says that this little girl was really born completely fearless. And the brother claims that he stopped touching her because it would hurt her. But the young gentleman objects and says that he knows perfectly well how to deal with children. At this time, the little lady thought that it was very noisy in her room, and she opened her eyes. And then she saw the guys and did not understand who they were. Nisefor suggests that it is Nathaniel, Risayan, and Heiberg Risayan, her brothers who won the battle with the pirates and returned. And at that time, she thought that they really were similar. Hybert suggests to his brother to look at her, because she is looking so intently and apparently they have interested her, and she probably feels their energy. Nathaniel says that she has great strength from birth. Hearing this, the girl thought that he really feels Teras's power inside her. And then she begins to push with her bags and thinks that he should tell her more about this. The pink-haired brother tells her that he thinks she wants to play with them and also suggests that she wants to call them brothers. Hybert says that on the ship he read a book about children, and at that age they can already pronounce individual words. And at that time, the girl thought that this could not be. Nathaniel suggests that his sister say the word brother, but when the girl doesn't answer, he says that it's still too early. Hybert claims that from this moment on, she begins to grow up quickly and will soon start talking, since she is also a carrier of coral fairy genes. The coral fairy race is the strongest sea-fighting race. They never retreat and face death from birth, have a strong fighting spirit, and do not know defeat. And at a young age, they reveal their abilities. Most coral fairies are incredibly beautiful, and humans attack them to enslave them. Hearing this, the main character thought about what she, of course, could have assumed. But she does not understand whether those hired killers attacked her mother because she has a relationship with the coral fairies. Brother reports that once a representative of this race reaches adulthood, he becomes incredibly strong. And in the first year of life, children experience very slow development. This applies to coral fairies. Haber suggests that she might be stronger than them, and even than their mother. The younger brother says that he still can't believe what happened to his mother, and he doesn't understand who dared to attack their parents. And he asks his brother about it because he thinks he's smart. Heber claims that this does not fit into his head. And he also knows that Rishon has many enemies and they are countless. And he understands that because of this prediction, someone is probably impatient. The brother asks if he is talking about her being able to become a dragon princess. Hearing this, the girl thinks that the dragon princess was talking about this to the emperor and Adele. And she understands that this prediction was about her. Nathaniel says that he even learned it, but he still can't understand what it says. His brother explains that this prophecy was seen by 5 priests from the Ramet sanctuary, and therefore he thinks that it is true. At this time, Sorceress does not understand what kind of princess of dragons this is. And at this time, her brother comes to her and says that she apparently is also interested in this. Heber asks his brother if he thinks the little girl understands them. He replies that they won't know. The elder brother says that the prophecy about her was that when the promised time comes, the crack will open. And after so much suffering, the purest power will blossom. The daughter of the sea will bless the young dragon so that he can finally rest. There will be prosperity that no one dreamed of, and so they must pray, because they do not know where the blade will go. And they must ask for forgiveness and mercy, because the pain of repentance will still remain. Land of red soils where true reverence rests, send them back where they came from, for this is their savior. The main character thought that the daughter of the sea is about her. And since she heard such information, she needs to think it over. After all, after so much suffering, this is definitely about the Risaean family. The blossom is the purest power, and it is definitely the power of the sea. And besides, the daughter of the sea, and here it was clearly spoken about her. The girl reflects on what Nicephorus Rizian and the Empress of Atlantis. And all this points to her on Tarasa Napuntos Atlantis, and therefore she thinks the main character of this prediction is Tarasa. And her reincarnation happened at such a moment. The main character reflects on the fact that the Ramet shrine, which serves the god of the earth, asks for forgiveness from her, and this seems strange to her. The brother takes the girl in his arms and says that she is very strange and at this time small. The lady thought that everything around her was spinning. Nathaniel says she has no signs, and he doesn't understand how they will know she is the dragon princess. Haber suggests they just wait until she awakens, and suggests not treating her like that. Heber claims that once her powers manifest, she will make a pact with the crown prince, and after that, the curse will be lifted. Because that is the essence of the appearance of the dragon princess. And since the crown prince is now 5 years old, and he does not understand what will happen to them if he awakens during these 14 years, brother says that they will be able to leave this place if the curse is broken, then there will be no reason to stay here. Nathaniel heard this and said that he was glad because he didn't want to die. Then he turned to the girl and asked how it happened that she was born right now. Heber says that the dragon princess has not been born for so long that they have already given up, and then thanks the girl for this, and informs that until then they will protect her. The main character thought that they were probably afraid of dying too, since her brothers are still so young and they are here as an offering since they have no parents. The girl understands that this concerns her. She wants and was not conscious, but this body remembers the warmth that came from her parents. And her father was so kind to her, and her mother fought with all her might to protect her. Nicephor doesn't understand why she's crying because she's lived for over 1,000 years, and yet she acts like a child. At this time, the brother does not understand why his sister is suddenly behaving like this, and he thought that she fell asleep again. Heber tells his brother not to wake her up and suggests leaving here. The guy with pink hair says that he wanted to stay here longer, but he understands that he is in the way, and therefore he will come tomorrow and bring a lot of toys and suggests waiting for him. Nicephor thought that they would come to her again tomorrow, and if so, she would not be so bored. And the girl also thought about the fact that she liked her brothers. A couple of days later, sister's brother came and told her that he had brought her toys. and then he offered her to look at them and play with them. And at that time, the girl thought that they were with her again, and they had been coming to her every day since their first meeting. The little lady began to babble a little, and the second brother began to call her foe. While playing with the toy, the girl thought that it would be better for her to see the sea than to sit here. Nathaniel asks his sister why she is so sad and then asks if she wants him to kiss her on the cheek. The little lady objects and digs her feet while thinking about how dare he do this and suggests that he keep her lips away from his imperial body. The main character points her finger at the window and the brother realizes that she wants to look in it. And then he takes her in his arms and offers to look. Nicephor looked at the sea and thought that this was her homeland and the place she loved. And she wanted to go back there, to swim and have fun with the whales and dolphins, and to sing songs with the mermaids. The little lady wants to sleep on the turtles' backs, and it all seems like yesterday to her. And she knows she'll hardly be able to go back, but she wants to go there to dive into the water. The pink-haired brother takes the girl away from the window because he thinks it's dangerous, and she can't do anything with this body. The main character saw the book at her brother's and immediately went to him to take it away. However, the older brother objects and says that he does not want to give her this book. Hearing this, the little lady began to tremble. And then he offers her to kiss him on the cheek, because he read in a book that children should contact their parents physically, because that is how they feel loved and an emotional connection is formed. The silver-haired guy claims that since she doesn't have parents, he's replacing them. He also says that if she doesn't want it, she won't get the book. Nicephoros is thinking about her, the Empress of Atlantis, kissing someone, and he thinks she would fall for such a cheap trick. Then she starts crying. Brother, says Fertogo, in order to get what you want, you need to be able to sacrifice something. At that time, the main character thought that she should not allow herself to be confused, because her reputation is important to her. Haber takes his wall in his arms, and then she kisses him. And at that moment, he thought what parental feeling is, and he says with delight that it was very wonderful. At this time, the main character thought that he should stop talking nonsense and give her a book. Nicephor looked at the book, but at that time she was secretly watched by a mercenary who, by order of the emperor, guarded the Princess of Dragons. His main task was to protect her from being killed, and therefore he was forbidden to talk to her or let her know about himself. The guy, watching the girl, thought that he really wanted to talk to her because of that cute little nose and beautiful pink hair and plump legs, and she is also charming. And besides, she is the daughter of Mrs. Ninnis herself. Mercenary hearing the little lady read, he thought that modern children learn to read quickly. Nicephoro thought that the emperor had indeed kept his promise and assigned her a bodyguard, and that new maids would soon arrive. And then she continued reading. The first emperor, Kaortan, was one of the survivors of the village of Atlantis. The prosperous empire sank under the water. Of all the apostles, only 2 remained alive. Emperor Kaorta, with the help of magic that he brought from the sanctuary of the sea dragon, built a new empire. And the price of this was the terrible curse that the sea monster placed on him. This madness could only be cured by the dragon princess, the ancestor of the Rizian family. Before her death, the dragon princess said that a new princess would appear who would save the Imperial family. And it is known that after her awakening, she will have to make a contract with the crown prince. After reading this in the book, the main character thought that Atlantis went underwater, and her country sank underwater every 10 years and then returned to dry land again. The sea and land constantly replaced each other. The Atlanteans were very close to the water and therefore could breathe under it. And at this time, the main character thought that the empire had sunk and disappeared. And she also remembers the curse, and the more she thinks about it, the stranger it seems. And as if it was created intentionally, the agreement is concluded in the established manner in the central sanctuary of Ramet. But it can only be concluded after the princess reaches 15 years of age, Nicephor. When reading the book, think about it. The method of breaking the curse is described in detail here. And she does not understand what the reason is and what the curse of the sea dragon is. Madness is when all the muscles and joints are torn apart, and everything inside is turning over and it becomes difficult to breathe. Frightening visions come, and strange voices appear in the ears. The girl reads that she hears the voice of a young woman. She says terrible words associated with a curse with pain and hatred, and many hear how the young girl screams and curses. At this time, the main character thought that even she would go crazy from this. And just from that, she already had goosebumps on her skin. And she thought that she had to endure until she was 15. and therefore, it would be good to quickly conclude an agreement and forget about this place. Nicephor reflects on the fact that she is unlikely to be forced to marry the crown prince, and she would like to grow up sooner. Meanwhile, in the hallway, a maid thanks the others for helping with the funeral preparations. Then she reports that no new offerings have been assigned to the palace. The maid opened the door and saw that the little girl was sleeping, and apparently she was tired. And then she suggested that the maids clean up here quietly and leave. Suddenly, the main character heard a voice asking her for help. And at that moment, she thought that she had already heard it last time. However, the girl does not understand what to help with and offers to tell him since she hears his voice. The voice says that he is in a lot of pain, and his whole body is being torn into small pieces, and therefore he feels excruciating. Hearing this, Nicephorus does not understand how she can help and thought that this is an illusion or reality, since she saw a little boy. The guy asks for help with tears in his eyes, and he begs to save him. Suddenly, the voice, like the vision, disappeared, and she does not understand what is happening here. But suddenly, she sees the boy again and asks who he is. The next day, when the girl woke up, she thought that she didn't understand what it was. And she thought that this boy was a mirage, and she understood that it couldn't be, because it was obvious how much he suffered. The little lady wonders if she will be able to meet him again. The maid informs Milady that today is the day of her parents' funeral. And then she says that it is not yet known who is behind the attack, and therefore it is too early to relax. The maid suggests that the girl should wear safer clothes and asks if she minds it. Hearing this, the girl does not understand what she is talking about. The maid explains that it is always windy on the seashore, so you need to dress warmly. And that is why she chose a dress for the funeral. And also, in case she is attacked, she prepared armor. And she reports that she herself put on a similar one. Hearing this, the main character thought that an ordinary maid would not use armor in case of danger. And that is why she is more and more interested in Adele. Nicephor recalls that in her native Atlantis, all burials were held at sea, because their life began in the water, and after death they had to return back. The girl understands that apparently they have the same thing. The funeral arrangements and the clothes all reminded her of her homeland. The elder reports that today they lost 2 defenders of Caortan, the Duke and Duchess of Risaean. Fortunately, their children are with them, and that was the will of the sea god. The man says that let no one experience this pain of loss. Then he wishes longevity to their children. 2 white boats with flowers sailed out to sea, and the man says that they are sending them to another life on a sea voyage. At this time, Nathaniel is screaming, crying, and talking about how they promised to go on a journey with him when he returned. And he does not understand why they did not keep their promise. The boy claims that they should not have left them, and if he had been there, he would have protected them. The little girl is also crying, and at that time she thought that in this life she could experience parental love. And she understands that everything was ruined and she will not forgive and will definitely take revenge for them. And she understands that for this, she needs to find help. Nicephor reflects that she will gather the power of the sea while she can, since she does not know when she will be able to come here again. At this time, the little lady felt that there were little gerbils in the air and her nose was itching again. It was at this time that she thought that her nose was itching so much that she could no longer even control herself. At this time, the city's inhabitants thought that the heavens were probably angry because of the death. And for them, these are clear signs of an approaching disaster. And also, what will happen to the Risaean family if this girl is not the Princess of Dragons? One man says that their family will come to an end. Hearing this, the main character does not understand how they dare to loudly discuss this in front of the children. And she needs to somehow calm them down and thought that maybe they should tear out their tongues. The girl remembers that the emperor liked her smile and thought that maybe it was worth trying. And then she smiles and thinks about shutting up the man who talks too much. At the funeral banquet, the duke's daughter was seated in a chair, and one lady was saying that the girl was so cute when she made a serious face and she didn't even cry. Hearing this, the little lady thought that they seemed to have an eye for cuteness. The lady asks her friend if she thinks the emperor is still not going to marry and appoint someone to be empress. Hearing this, the little lady thought that His Majesty had no wife. And surely this was all because of his madness, since he was afraid that he might harm the empress. The lady in the yellow dress says that she is worried about him, even though there is already a crown prince. And then they leave, and the little lady thought that they did not let him hear the most important part. Another woman says that His Highness is too weak to participate even in such events. Idea, it seems that he is becoming more and more ferocious, because it is said that the day before yesterday, he killed all his servants. The lady says that he was swinging the sword with bloody hands, and it may be because of madness. There are also rumors that he writhes in pain and cries every day. At this time, the girl remembered the boy who asked her for help and thought that he was the crown prince. But her brother said that he was 5 years old, and that child looked 7. And he also did not seem so fierce as to kill his servants. The main character thought that she should ask about it personally, because before he called her, but now she wants to do it. And if he hears her voice, then let him answer her. Nisa 4 asks if he is the crown prince, and then she hears a voice asking her to help him. And at that moment, she thought that he was the one who should become her husband. And she saw a boy next to her. The butler informs His Majesty that the funeral banquet has begun, and he replies that he will be there soon. And then he asks if those Raxborough bastards are there. The servant replies that they have just arrived with the prince, and His Majesty says that he needs to ask them something. The butler asks the emperor if he thinks they killed the duke and his wife. He replies that at least they are foreigners who are wary of the Corton Empire. His Majesty says that if the dragon princess awakens, then prosperity will come to the empire, and perhaps they were afraid of this. Roxborough. The royal family is second only to the emperor in power, and they are the first to be suspected. And then the emperor asks, what about the investigation? The butler explains that he searched all 3 assassin guilds but found no trace. Hearing this, the emperor thought that if there was even one clue, he would be able to behead the royal prince right now. And then he says that they need to go and look at their impudent faces. Nicephor looks at the boy and asks if he inflicted all these wounds on himself. Then she pities him and says that he suffered a lot. The girl asks if it is really the sound of a trumpet, but she hears the voice for help again. And at that moment, she screams for him not to go away. After all, she wanted to ask him about many things. When the emperor entered, he thanked them for their time. And then he said that in order to honor the memory of the defenders of the empire and his friends, a guest from distant lands had arrived, and so he offered to welcome him. Hearing this, the main character thought that some important person would enter the hall now, and then she stretches her hands to the maid so that she would lift her up, because the girl wants to see everything. Gunther Jan Roxborough, Crown Prince Roxborough, greeted His Majesty. The emperor says that he has come a long way, and the boy thanks him for welcoming him so warmly. At this time, His Majesty does not understand whether he came to express condolences or to believe in the fruits of their actions. The prince says that he is not destined to understand their great loss, since he is still a child and came here to console children who have lost their parents. His Majesty says that he communicates with him confidently and praises him. The boy thanks her and says that he brought gifts for the grieving. He offers to accept them as consolation. Nice 4. Watching them, she thought that Roxborough was the enemy of this empire, and she did not understand what the emperor meant. And she thought that he suspected them of her parents' death. The main character thought that if they really did this, she would never forgive them. Neither diplomatically nor politically, there was no mercy for them, and she would tear them to shreds. Adele sees the worried girl and asks what's wrong with her. Then she offers to change her diaper and asks if she's hungry. At this time, the prince looked at the little lady and thought that this little one must be the bride. And then he came up to her, and she thought that she saw a familiar face. Nicephorus remembers that you were also an arrogant, impudent fellow in Atlantis. Just as stupid and stubborn, and he still dares to be cheeky to her every time. The boy looks at the girl, and she doesn't understand who he's staring at, since he still has to live 1,000 years to reach her. Adele suggests, Miss, it is better not to mess with him. And at that time, the girl thought that she never retreats from a fight. The prince touches the girl and says that she is an oddball and there is nothing special about her. And he does not understand why this prediction would be about her, because even up close, the little one is no different. Hearing this, the little lady pushed the prince with all her might and thought that he should not show off. When the boy stood up, he pushed the girl, and the maid asked in surprise what His Highness was doing, as he had swung at the child. And at that moment, the girl thought that her Adele was clever. The prince objects and says that she hit him first. Haber comes up to them and asks if he wanted to hurt his sister. Houghton claims that she was the first to attack him, but his brother says that she is still a tiny child and that it is not proper for a prince to raise a hand against a small child. Hearing this, the main character thought that he needed to go study, since the prince was 1,000 years behind her. At this time, the emperor thought that this girl was so amazing because she slapped this arrogant boy. The butler reports that he even heard the sounds of blows, and he does not understand how such small hands can do this. At this time, the emperor says that this girl is just a cutie, and he would like to turn back time and see this scene again. The servant says that his master smiles like this for the first time since the death of the empress. The emperor thought about how he had lost his sister, whom he had deeply respected, and also said goodbye to Karzen and Ninnis, his close friends. And he understands that he must now protect the two crown prince, whom the sister left behind, and the child of Karzen and Ninnis. His Majesty asks if they have prepared the maids to work in the offering palace, and the servant replies that they have chosen the very best, and therefore His Highness need not worry about it. The emperor asks if anything unusual has happened in their palace. The servant says that if the miss is in a good mood, she dances like a dad. And he asks if he captured it for the archive, and then suggests keeping it a secret. The main character remembers that when she was the empress, she was relaxing with her friends. The magician suggests to his mistress not to look at her like that, as he cannot concentrate. However, she apologizes and says that his hands are so beautiful that she wants to hold them. Kaorten claims that it is not becoming for her to apologize so often. And she agrees with him and says that he is right, as always. But she holds his hand and does not let go. After these memories, the main character thought that she would cut them both into small pieces. And she does not understand why they betrayed her. Even after everything that happened between them, she will jump back to those times, to her country Atlantis. The little lady thinks that she wants to find out what happened to her and why Kaorten betrayed her. And she understands that to do this, she needs to gain access to the secret library. But she does not know how to get there. The next day, the maids brought a gift for the little lady and asked if she liked it. When the girl climbed into the walker, she thought that she had reached the end of freedom. And then she quickly ran into the corridor to the large window to see the sea again. Suddenly, Sorceress heard the voice again, asking her for help and saying that he was in pain. The main character calms him down and tells him not to suffer, because she will find him soon. And then she touches the unknown boy, who asks her for help. Suddenly, the girl found herself in another place and thought that it was teleportation. And it was not written there, and she saw the crown prince, who was lying in bed. At first, the main character thought that he had died, but fortunately he was alive. And on his head she saw dragon horns. And she thought that the blood of a dragon flows in the veins of the crown prince. Sorceress doesn't understand why there's no one around him. After all, he's sick. And she understands that this boy definitely doesn't look like a 5-year-old. As she got closer to the prince, she thought about how flawless his features were, and how incredibly handsome he was. And that kind of beauty made her want to protect him. And she realized that he was her type. The main character reflects on the fact that such a small boy needs care. And then she puts a wet towel on her forehead. When he opened his eyes, the girl said that there was no point in worrying, since he was nothing more than a wounded seal to her. And then she told him not to get sick, but he didn't understand anything. The crown prince looked at the little girl and did not understand where she came from. And at that time, he thought that he was seeing her because of madness. The main character remembers that, in addition to the agreement in that book, there was another way to help him. And she tries to remember what exactly. Before the contract is concluded, the crown prince's symptoms of madness can be alleviated with resonance. However, the protagonist does not understand how to touch him, as he is in pain. Suddenly, the boy grabs her and puts her on his chest. And at that moment, she thought that she couldn't breathe because he put his hand on her. Nisephor doesn't understand why he doesn't ask for help like he did before. And she thought that it could be because she saw his inner state. And she even likes his stubbornness. The next day, the girl saw a boy who asked if she was awake. And at that moment, she felt the aura of the sea dragon. And she thought that he had incredible strength, which was equal to what she had at his age. But unlike her, it seemed that the sea hated him. The little lady comes up to the boy and asks if he feels better. The crown prince says that surprisingly, when he looks at her, he feels better and there is no pain. The boy is sure that she is the dragon princess from the fairy tale and then asks her about it. The prince asks if she remembers how they were in resonance, and then says that the older he gets, the stronger the resonance will be. He thanks the girl. The boy with black hair asks the little lady if she wants milk, but the girl says no, and then screams and says that milk makes her sick and she wants a well-done steak and shrimp fried in butter. The prince does not understand what the girl is talking about and asks if she wants something else. Hearing this, the young lady does not understand how he heard her thoughts. The guy claims that when she is so emotional, he only gets fragments of what she is thinking. A servant comes into their room and asks if His Highness called him. And when he saw Miss Rissian, Toe was very surprised. The young master orders that food be brought to him and to this girl. The prince realized that he did not know her name and asked about it. And then he said that in order to find out her name, he would have to call someone who knew her better. The little lady muttered under her breath, and at that time thought about what she could say herself. But she realized that it would be problematic since he would not be able to understand her. The boy says that he doesn't want to let her go and doesn't understand what to do. The little girl thought that he should stop because he wouldn't be able to take care of her. And then she thought that she would say her name herself. The prince says that he is glad to meet Sorceress and tells her that his name is Sion. At this time, the main character thought that he would also do such a trick with his eyes closed, and probably it would not surprise him. And the little lady doesn't understand if he's really 5 years old. After all, he has beautiful eyes and doesn't look like an emperor. Zion says that he is really 5 years old. Hearing this, the girl was surprised and thought that he heard her again. The guy explains that he understood it from her look. The prince explains that members of the Imperial family grow up faster than other children, and he is the son of the previous emperor, and the current emperor is her mother's younger brother. And then she asks why he looks at him like that. The boy replies that she is sweet, and then claims that she understands everything that is happening around her, but she just can't speak. At this time, the main character thought that he wanted to melt her heart with his appearance, and she thought that she would not be against marrying him. After all, she would remove the curse from him and simply get a divorce. The little lady realizes that she feels sorry to leave him in such agony. Suddenly, her brother enters their room and, screaming, asks if she had any idea how worried they were. His Highness asked the servants if he asked for food to be brought, and they invited other people along with it. The maid falls to the floor and explains that she only brought breakfast and then asks not to kill her. The main character heard this and didn't understand whether it was possible to kill for something like that, and she wanted them to quickly defuse the situation. Sorceress thought about what she smells. From there, the smell of good roasted meat. And then screaming says that she is hungry as a wolf, and she wants to be given food and not to lose this servant. The girl understands that no one understands her, and at that moment she fell on the bed and began to cry. And then her brother comes to her and asks what hurts her. Zion, that she can go. Heard she was very happy and thanked Miss. The young gentleman feeds the little girl, and she happily opens her mouth and eats. The brother asks His Highness if he can take Sorceress away after he has fed her. Then he explains that they were very worried about her. At this time, the main character thought that it was not surprising, since she suddenly disappeared. And she also thought that she did not want to leave Zion. The prince says that he refuses. The brother heard this, was surprised, and did not understand why. The young master explains that the little lady does not want to be in the palace as a gift, but here with him. And then he turns to the little lady and asks if he is right. Sorceress thought about how Sion had been alone all this time. And although he looked absolutely healthy, he had been struggling with himself, suffering, and even now he could barely stand on his feet. The prince turns to the little lady and tells her that he will give her everything she wants, but she must just stay by his side. At this time, the main character thought that she could not leave him. And then he took her in his arms. The servants talk among themselves about how they are not at all suitable for each other. At this time, the girl thought that she heard everything and did not understand why Zion was silent. The maid wondered if the prince would harm the duke's daughter, and the servant said that apparently she would soon become an offering to him. The little lady doesn't understand what kind of people they are because she knows that the master hears all this. Zion turns to Joseph's servant and tells him to take this man away and give him a punishment of 30 lashes and dismissal. And the servant says that he will carry out his order and then takes away the servant who thought badly of the prince. The servant at this time, screaming, asks for forgiveness from His Majesty and reports that he was wrong and asks not to kill him. And at this time, he thought that he was having an attack of madness. Sitting in the carriage, the prince asks the little lady if he has gone too far and what she thinks. However, she supports him and says that it was deserved. The young master says that he would not pay attention if he was talking only about him, but he will not forgive the one who will involve her in dirty rumors. Sorceress thought that he was a clever man, and that this servant had forgotten his place and therefore must be punished. The prince says that this is surprising to him, because she is still a baby, but to him she seems big, like him. And then he asks if she has another appearance that he does not know about. Hearing this, girl remembered her face to the previous empress, and at that time she thought that he felt something. Zion claims that she and the Risayan family, and therefore anything can happen. The girl thought that he probably just asked, but she was surprised. The young gentleman takes the little lady's hand and then kisses it. He thanks her for not being afraid of him, and then says that he wishes she would grow up soon and learn to speak. Nicephore saw that the prince was smiling, and she did not understand what was wrong with him. But when she touched him, she saw that his breathing had quickened and his body was becoming cold. The main character understands that these symptoms are dangerous and suggests doing nothing. At this time, the prince scratches his face with his fingers. At this time, the main character thought that he could not control himself and was ready to attack at any moment, without realizing it himself. But this sound earlier? What happens when you absorb someone else's power? The little lady realizes that this rejection, reaction, and energy is raging inside the body and begins to move from within. But absorbing someone else's power was punishable by death in Atlantis. Niceforo understands that he hardly killed someone in order to take someone else's power, and it turns out that she does not understand what Kaorten did. The main character asks the guy to come to his senses and then asks him to resonate again. She rubs his hand and lower back slowly, and then asks him to wake up. When Zion came to his senses, he asked if the little lady was safe. But when he saw that she was unharmed, he said that, thank God, because he thought that she would suffer because of him. The girl asks if he knows his symptoms. The boy explains that he is actually insane, and if he loses control during the attacks, they will start to stop him and he can attack. The prince thanks the girl for not doing anything. Hearing this, she thought that was why there was no one near him, and if there were servants who died while trying to help him. At this time, the main character thought that if she could enter the secret Imperial library, she could find out what spell Kaorten had cast. Once the power is absorbed, it is passed down from generation to generation, and it is definitely something forbidden. Nicephore reflects that if she had been able to notice Kaorten and Doom's betrayal earlier, he would not have suffered so much. The servant turns to His Highness and informs him that they have arrived, and the young gentleman takes the little lady in his arms and bids her go. The main character doesn't understand where they are, but when she saw a woman painted on the wall, she thought that it was her. Sion tells her that it will be very noisy inside and suggests that she should not be afraid. Guys, time is short. The lady thought that she was already scared. And what a scoundrel Kaorten was, since he dared to whip her face. When they entered the palace, the servants did not understand why this lady was here. The emperor asks why His Highness came here with Rasayan's daughter. Xiongpo greeted His Highness, and Kaorten said that they were together and then asked what happened. The young gentleman says that he has something to tell him and then says that he resonated with Nicephorus. Hearing this, the servants were surprised, and the young master did not understand why they reacted this way. The emperor, screaming, asks what condition he is in. The butler reports that nothing has changed so far. And the girl is fine, she is absolutely healthy and still as charming. His Majesty says that it turns out that in the legends she became an offering. But they have a different result, and he does not understand why. The young master says that he also wants to know about it. At this time, Hybert comes to them and says that His Highness, even if Nicephorus is a dragon princess, he should not discuss matters concerning her without her relatives. Brother, the princess asks if it is possible to make an official protest against the crown prince. Hearing this, the main character thought that Nathaniel must have told Heiberg about everything that happened. And they are both worried and angry. But she does not understand how they can be so rude to His Majesty, even if they are from the Rission family. The little lady hopes that her brothers will not be killed here and now, because she understands that it will create problems and they should not behave like that with the emperor. Nicephorus starts waving her hands and saying that she's all right. But because she's little and no one understands her, Hubert looked at his younger sister and thought that she was fine, and then apologized for being rude. His Majesty asks if they themselves understand this. The young gentleman with silver hair reports that Nicephorus belongs to the Rasayan family, and while the crown prince reported his resonance, they were in the dark with her. Hybert believes that everything connected with Nicephorus should be known first and foremost to her family, and before such meetings are held, he would like them to be informed of this too, His Highness. The main character believes that they are right, because it concerns their status in the relationship and Nathaniel and Heiberg should know about it. And this time, her brothers are right. The emperor says that he had not thought about it, and therefore will take it into account. And since today is a famous day, he suggests leaving the matter. His Majesty formally congratulates them on their release from the status of offering. Hybert thanks His Majesty and then asks to be allowed to ask those people a few questions. The elder brother asks if there is a possibility that the dragon princess's power or quality of life could be reduced, or that someone would gain her powers. Because the offerings were originally made to prevent the crown prince from having an attack, because he could not withstand the power of the sea dragon. Hybert says that then, if the resonance power increases and with the agreement, the curse will be disarmed, but the dragon princess will not be around, and he asks that the prince will no longer suffer from attacks. At this time, the main character thought that her brother wanted to hear that if he started to feel better, then the dragon princess could be with him. Sorceress thinks that she does not plan to be with Zion for the rest of her life, and when his condition improves a little, she will go on a trip. And she will enjoy her freedom, because in her past life she could not afford it. The butler reports that they resonated too little and that they need to observe for at least 3 months. He reports that they themselves know that there are very few records of the past dragon princess, and most of them are in the secret library. The emperor says that it turns out that madness is hard to cure, and the butler says that it is worth studying the current princess a little more closely, and especially since she is from the race of coral fairies. At this time, the main character thought that she also wanted to go to the secret library with them. Zion hugs the girl and tells her not to worry because he won't hurt her. At this time, the little girl screams and thinks that she is not about this. The young gentleman informs her that he knows very well what this feeling is, and therefore he will not hurt her, and she may not be afraid. Nicephor thinks that there are no people in this world who could hurt her, and she just wants to go to the secret library. And she also doesn't understand why they don't have glasses of water, because she would show what she wants. And at that time, she thought that she wants to grow up faster. The emperor says that from today on, the place of Niceforo's interruption will change. And there is a palace that has been prepared for the Princess of Dragons, and she will definitely like this place. The next day, the main character went to her palace and thought that it was very beautiful and that she could be blown away by it. The maid shows the little lady her bed and then asks if she is beautiful. The girl thought that her room was simply excellent and that such a bed was suitable for an empress. The maid says that the closet is full of cute clothes and these are beautiful shoes, and she wants the girl to try them on as soon as possible. Nicephor thought that the dressing room was very large, and then the maids offered her many dresses to try on. Suddenly, her brothers enter the room and ask why it is so noisy. Nathaniel turns to his little sister and tells her that he has something for her. Then he hands her the box and offers her to look at it. When the little lady opened the box, she thought that it was the lucky stone of the giant monsters, and that it probably belonged to her mother. The main character was surprised because this stone is very difficult to obtain, and she does not understand how they got it. Adele, seeing this bracelet, says that it was lost when she and the princess ran away that day, and she wonders how it ended up here. The brothers ask what she means and offer to tell her in more detail. The maid explains that on the morning of that fateful day, this bracelet was placed on the princess's hand by Mrs. Ninnis. But suddenly the murderer appeared. While they were running away from him, the decoration fell out and was lost. Adele suggests that perhaps it happened at the entrance to the estate, and it fell from the princess's hands, but they could not return. The main character thought that she did not understand how Adele was not hurt in all this turmoil, and apparently it was because of the stone. After all, after they left the estate, they quickly attacked their trail, and it was at that time that she came to a realization. Nathaniel reports that he was lying by the fireplace. At this time, the maid realizes that there was a secret exit near the fireplace. The brother with pink hair puts a bracelet on his sister's hand. At this time, Nicephor thought that apparently her mother had already sensed something was wrong. Suddenly, in the room, a maid with glasses falls to the floor and breaks a plate, and then asks for forgiveness. Hybert tells his sister that there will soon be a celebration in honor of her becoming a dragon princess, and it will be held in the Pearl Palace. And according to custom, the host of the celebration must arrange everything. But since she is still very young, he took this job upon himself. Hearing this, the girl thought that this was great, since she had never been involved in organizing such events, and remembered that Kaorten did everything. Hybert says in 2 weeks and suggests that they keep an eye on it. Nathaniel looked at the cabinet and asked his brother if he had filled it with jewelry for his sister. The little lady thought about how to make it in time. He should have ordered it the first day he met her, and she understands, because the look of this man, who with all his appearance says that he is still better than this emperor. Nathaniel reveals that he and his brother bought the jewelry inside the cabinet together, and when they defeated those pirates, their treasure. Hybert turns to his brother and says that they have a lot to do, and then suggests that he leave. The young gentleman with pink hair turns to his sister and says that he wants to live with her here in the Mother of Pearl Palace, but since he is no longer an offering, he must live in the estate of the Duchy of Rission. Niceform tells her brother not to be sad, and at that time she thought that he should go, since Haber was waiting for him. The boy with pink hair thought about how his sister wants him to be near her and then asks her about it. The main character thought that she didn't mean it at all, and her brother says that they will see each other later and then kisses her on the cheek. And she thought that she was already tired of him. Nicephorus says that he will come more often and then says goodbye to the girl and leaves. The little lady is thinking about the holiday and she doesn't understand what will happen this time. 2 weeks later, you have a celebration day. The maids turn to the little lady and say that she is the most charming in the world, and it is impossible to look at her without affection. The maids say that they feel sorry because one maid has to accompany her to the party. The maids turn to Adele and tell her that she must remember every detail and triviality associated with their princess in order to retell them how it was. And then they suggest that they have a good time. When Adele saw the young gentleman, she invited her mistress to look at him. Sion announces that he has come for Nicephorus. And when the little lady saw him, she thought that he looked dazzling and was becoming more and more beautiful every day. The maid says that she is glad to meet him and then greets him. The prince takes the girl in his arms and says that he feels great today. And it's all thanks to her. And as he walked here, he felt better and better. The main character understands that she was next to him for these 2 weeks, and that is why he did not have attacks. Sion reports that when they enter, there will be many annoying people and the aristocrats will not like the news that they resonated. The girl does not understand why and asks about it. The prince explains that the aristocrats do not like the Imperial family strengthening its position, and they want their influence to grow. Therefore, people will openly show their dislike for it. Hearing this, the female lead thought that they were scumbags, but she was not bothered by it at all. Then he thought that he should not worry, since she never runs away from a fight. The young gentleman says that this little lady is a cutie. She shouldn't be so skeptical. After all, they're not going to war. Nicephorus thought that she must always be ready. The prince explains that they have gathered to congratulate her and are unlikely to overdo it. He then informs her that if they dare, he will kill them all, and therefore suggests that the little lady not to worry. At this time, the girl thought that he was the one who scared her the most right now. The prince announces that they are coming in now and then opens the door. And the butler announces that His Highness the Crown Prince and the Dragon Princess have arrived. The ladies in the room were saying that this lovely lady was very beautiful. However, one man was saying that he expected something more since she was a princess. And the other one agreed with that. Hearing this, Nicephorus thought that she remembered their sad faces, and then she starts to be capricious, and the maid does not understand what is wrong with her. The prince explains that apparently she doesn't like something. Adele suggests that His Highness take the girl from him. The maid asks her mistress if she wants to be put in a walker. The girl says that she wants it, and then shakes her head. And at that moment, she thought that perhaps she would have a chance to enter the secret library. The prince turns to the little lady and suggests that she be careful and not fall. At this time, the girl thought that she was in a walker and did not understand how she could fall. Nicephorus thought that she would first deal with those people she didn't like. The aristocrats say among themselves that she is just a child and does not understand what power she can possess. The gentleman says that she is a good-looking woman, but when she grows up, she will be something to look at. Another man heard this, smiled, and said that he agreed with him, because Duchess Rizian thought so much of herself because of her appearance, and therefore found herself in a completely different world. Before he could finish these words, champagne was poured over the man's clothes. The aristocrat asked why he was pouring champagne on himself like a small child. The man explains that it spilled out on its own and then asks if they noticed. Seeing this, Nicephorus thought that she would not allow him to insult her mother. The main character reflects on the fact that she has dealt with everyone in the banquet hall and thinks that she needs to suppress her aura so that no one can sense it. And then she quickly runs to the other end of the castle. Suddenly, the girl thought that something interesting would pass by, would come in. And with the help of the walker, she wants to open the door. The man with red hair screams for silence and asks how many times he has to repeat who's knocking there. The little girl, when she saw the man, she thought that he was a high-class magician because he had stars on his chest. When the magician saw the girl, he asked if she was really the dragon princess. The little lady entered the room and saw many scattered. And when she picked one up, she read that it was the language of the sea giants and the tasks of the ancient Atlanteans of magic. And she reflects on the fact that he came here to learn. The man holds his head and screams that these are not toys. Hearing this, the girl does not understand and asks about it. Nicephorus saw that there were mistakes on each sheet of paper, but then she read that the third option was correct. The magician asks in surprise if Her Highness showed him the correct answer with her finger, and he does not understand how this can be, since even a child understands better than he does. And the man thought that she was small, or that she also knew the language of the sea giants. And he realized that this was not just intuition. The magician tells her that his name is Jackalot. Then he says that he wants to become her student, and it doesn't matter how she reads and solves problems. Then he asks her to simply teach her how to do it. Hearing this, the main character thought that she had forgotten that all magicians are a little Togo and call the child a mentor. And at that time, she thought that this was a chance for her. The girl thought that everyone would consider her a genius, and at the same time, she would be able to hide her powers. And therefore, the assassination attempt would be less. And if it was revealed that she was smart, she would be able to ask for access to the secret library. The magician asks His Highness if she will accept him as her disciple. Nicephor thought that she should start crying and calling someone. And then she started screaming. A few minutes later, the prince and her brothers came running into the room and they were wondering who dared to offend her. The little lady thought that they had arrived so quickly because they were standing outside the door. Nathaniel asks who dared to hurt his little sister. Then the prince takes the girl in his arms and tells her not to talk to him because he is a bad uncle. Nicephoros is being capricious and crying at this time, and the prince asks if he should bring her some water. Hearing this, the magician offers her some water. When the girl took the water, she made letters out of the water with the help of magic, and Jackalot read that she needed to call the chief magician. The main character thought that she needed to make a deal with him. Sitting at the table with the emperor and the mage, the girl thought that she just wanted to talk to the chief mage so that she would be given access to the library. Chief mage Aleid Ablosa does not understand why they have all gathered here, since a sage has also come. Jackalot screams and announces that Her Highness the Dragon Princess is a genius. Then she explains that she was able to solve a difficult problem in the language of the sea giants. In an instant, she solved the correct answer. The chief magician asks if he can be held accountable for his statements, and he replies that he is putting his powers as a magician on the line. Aleid takes the paper and offers Her Highness to read it. The girl looked and thought that it was a collection of recipes for dishes of sea giants. The chief magician thought that it was too heavy for her. Nicephoros makes letters with water and asks what will happen if she reads it for him. The sage asks the girl if she knows the language of the sea giants. And at that moment, the main character thought that she showed him this with the help of water, and she does not understand why he would stick his face to her. The magician asks the lady when she learned to use magic, and at that time she does not understand what she should answer. And she draws that she has known it since birth. The emperor says she is Rasayan, and that is no wonder. And her older brothers are also successful in everything. And it is impossible to explain this genius, since she is still a baby. His Highness says that the world is full of people who are more brilliant than him, and they must deny her talent because they cannot admit it. The emperor announces that he has decided to keep her abilities a secret for now, and even if she is a genius, it does not change the fact that she is still a child, and they cannot take away from her the childhood to which she is entitled. The great sage smiled and said that he should live another couple of decades to see the adult princess and work with her on various studies. The chief mage says that he must live even longer than he did to develop different types and techniques of magic together. At this time, the main character thought that she had not actually given her consent, and she only needed access to the secret library. And if they let her in, they would get very valuable information through her. The emperor says that Nicephoros cannot go there, and if he opens the secret library, then its secret will be discovered even in neighboring territories, and this will expose it to even greater danger. The chief mage says that if Her Highness helps research ancient magic in 10 years, and the great sage says that if Her Highness helps research ancient language and history, then they have something to offer His Majesty. Hearing this, the emperor asks if they want to make a deal with him. Mage Aleid claims that no one will say anything if he brings papers from the secret library, and Her Highness the Princess will be able to look through them in his office. The great sage agrees with him and says that he is right because no one will suspect anyone if the child looks at old papers. Kaorton turns to the little lady and asks her what she thinks. And at that moment, the little girl, A, waved her hands with delight and thought that this was just great. The emperor asks what he should bring from the secret library and invites her to say what exactly she wants. Nicephor, with the help of water, shows that she needs records about the first emperor, and also papers related to the death of the ancient empress of Atlantis. And she must learn at least something from this to move on. A few minutes later, the emperor invited them to come in to see Zion, and the little lady was surprised as she did not know that he had been there behind the door all the time. His Majesty asks the prince if he heard everything, and the boy turns to His Majesty and says that he heard everything. But the emperor reminds him that he asked to be called uncle in private, and then he says that this place rightfully belongs to him. The prince asks his uncle what he wants to get from the chief magician and sage. Kaorton says that he himself must understand that the situation is not the best, and they do not know what Roxborough intends to do. Well, maybe they are preparing for an attack. His Majesty informs them that they can declare war right now and slaughter them all, but he knows that the lives of their people can become even worse. And when the time comes, they will be obliged to become the power of the Empire. Hearing this, the main character thought that the Emperor wanted to use magicians and sages if a war suddenly broke out. And she realized that a real emperor should think exactly like this. Kaorton believes that the symptoms of madness are increasing day by day, but he will hold on and does not know when his limit will be reached. The prince suggests not to say that to his uncle. And at that moment, Nicephore thought about how they had to, because she had goosebumps just from what she had read in the book, and she was afraid to even imagine what it was like to experience such terrible pain. The emperor turns to the prince and tells him that he must improve himself. And at this time, the girl understands that, despite this, he cares about his nephew and tries to endure everything. His Majesty says that until the prince grows up, he will have to wear clothes that are not made for him. The girl thought that she couldn't tell them anything, and even if they were descendants of Kaorton, it didn't make her feel any better that they were suffering. And she understood that, being a child, she wasn't able to solve this problem. And so she would have to wait until she grew up. After that, the days passed slowly and quickly. Because of this time, the main character grew noticeably, and she turned 2 years and 1 month old. Nicephore wonders if the chief magician and sage are tired of it, and she doesn't understand how many invitations they sent. Adele picked up the girl and asked what they were going to play today. The little lady said that she wanted to play tumbleweed. The maid says that Her Highness spent the whole day yesterday on the bed. However, the little lady asks that the maid gave her a book, and when she took it, she thought that it was already all wrinkled, and she should ask for it to be copied. The girl reflects on the fact that she has studied very diligently all the papers related to the destruction of the Atlantean Empire. And in her entire life, she has never seen such a huge wave that swallowed up an entire country. The sea seemed like a giant angry monster, and all their achievements were destroyed in the blink of an eye. And when it was time to go underwater, the sea slowly covered the empire. Nicephore thought that she had read all this countless times, and she could not imagine this horrific scene, because further it was written about how the first Emperor Kaorton regretted. The main character understands that this part is not so important and can be skipped, but she only thinks that from this moment the most interesting part begins. The girl reads about the words written after the Emperor's regret. Rereading it, she feels everything that she did when she first read it. And this is shock, anger, and despair. The main character thought that she should see this passage again, but she is annoyed that he did not finish writing anything about it. Nicephoros understands that after this difficult sentence, he was describing how he acted after the destruction of Atlantis. The Atlanteans had to get used to life on Earth, and for a people who had no one to rely on. He created a new faith, thinking that it would perpetuate their memory of Atlantis. Remed Shrine worships the god of the earth. She thought that he sealed it with his own hands and wanted to perpetuate the memory of Atlantis. The girl claims that she is Atlantis and then starts screaming. The maid asks Her Highness if everything is all right, and then asks if she would like some refreshing juice. Nicephore said that she wanted to drink, and at that moment she thought that she was putting too much pressure on Adele. Haber came to see his sister and tells her that she is lazy. Since she is brilliant today, she is loafing around. The girl asks if he compliments her, but the brother objects and says no. The princess asks why he came since he is very busy, and she understands that even after he became a duke, he comes as soon as he has a free minute. The brother says that he read a very popular book about children, and it says that this age is very important in a child's life. And then he gives her a new toy and offers to play with it, because it will help to increase the level of receptivity. The little lady doesn't understand how to play with it and what to do. And then the girl smears paint on her palm and puts it on the gentleman's face. The maid was surprised, and when she saw the little lady, she offered to wipe her hands and offered some juice to drink, and hot chocolate to the young gentleman. Hybert, seeing his sister laughing and asking why she is doing this, the girl points at him and says that he is drinking chocolate. The young gentleman asks what's strange about him drinking hot chocolate. Hearing this, the girl thinks that she didn't say it was strange and only thought he had a sweet tooth, and then smiles, because his tastes don't match his appearance at all. The main character thought that it was strange because Nathaniel doesn't like sweets. Hybert says that she is capricious today, and then asks what she wants to know and says that he will answer all her questions. Nicephore says that she wants information about Atlantis and the first emperor, but realizes that her brother knows nothing about it. And then she remembers that she was interested in something, and that is the previous empress. The girl remembers that there is no record of the death of the former empress, but probably Hebert knows something about it. And then she asks about it. The main character saw the surprised face of the maid and did not understand what was going on, and then thought that she asked something she should not have asked. Adele, you suggest that Her Highness change her clothes. However, the girl does not understand why and asks about it, because she does not understand when she managed to get so dirty. Nicephore thought about what she must have asked about the forbidden thing. The maid whispers in her ear that it would be better for her not to mention the previous empress, because it was a very painful memory for them. Adele reports that her mother, Mrs. Ninnis, considered the previous empress her older sister. And after what happened, she even stopped eating and drinking. And this event was shocking, but in all, it was hard to see the state of Mrs. Ninnis. The main character understands why she was so upset by her question. Then she says that she didn't know and thanks her for saying it. The maid says that since they were talking about Mrs. Ninnis, she remembered her words, which she asked to convey to the little mistress. And it would also be good if she could personally say this, and asks if the girl does not mind, since she will convey the words to her instead of her mother. Nicephore says she doesn't mind. Adele says that those born with the power of the sea dragon have a painful attachment, and the previous empress felt it for her lover, and the current emperor for his sister. She says that this obsession can manifest itself as friendship, infatuation, or family love. After hearing this, the main character does not understand why she decided to tell her this. The maid says that she will now speak in the words of Lady Ninnis, and then she claims that when the crown prince begins to become attached to her, she should not resist, since she is able to cure his illness and therefore, perhaps, not become attached to her. Adele says that there is an age difference between them, and that is why he will consider her as his little sister. And she also wonders if she will become part of his family for the sake of the people. The woman with pink hair touches the girl's head and says that she wants her daughter, as befits a dragon princess, to fulfill her duty with great responsibility. The maid says that she thinks the prince has already become attached to her, since he visits her every day. At this time, the main character thought that she would not have said that, since she had never seen her mother, but she imagined what kind of person she was. And first of all, she thought about the desires of the people, and then about her own. Mom was an aristocrat. She tried to fulfill all the duties assigned to her. Little Lady says that she likes people like that, and her mom was great. Adele says that she agrees with her because she was a great person and always tried to protect her daughter. Hebert says that he doesn't even want to imagine becoming one family with them. And at that time, Nicephorus thought that he heard everything. And then asks if Zion is stronger than Hibby, and she wonders if that's why he doesn't like him. The brother says that next time he will bring his sister something that can occupy her little mouth. A couple of days later, Nicephore dined with the prince. But when the maid fed her, she was capricious, and after eating a few spoonfuls of cake, she said that she didn't want any more. The prince says that the cake is very tasty and invites her to eat a little more and then calls her foe. Hearing this, the girl screams and tells him not to call her that because she doesn't like it. The little lady remembers that Nathaniel came up with this nickname for her, and everyone addresses the great empress as a child. Zion asks the girl what he should call her and then tells her that only he can call her that. He claims that he will call her Nikki. The prince says that she is his nickname. When she heard this, the girl thought that it was a little dangerous because he might not let her go later. After all, she understands that she is here to remove the curse, and Zion must find himself another passion. The main character realizes that before she leaves the palace, she wants to go to the library. The prince tells her that when they get married, she will become an empress and will even be able to live there, and she replies that it is too long. Zion tells her that in return, he will give her a gift, and then hands her a box inside, which was a precious stone, and its name was Sleeping Nymph. Seeing the gift, the girl thought that the nymph was a water fairy, and she had been in this state for at least 500 years. And those who are close to the element of water can make a contract with the nymph. With the help of the nymph's power, it will be possible to breathe underwater for a certain period of time. And the young gentleman claims that Nikki will definitely be able to wake her up. At this time, the main character thought that she did not need the ability to breathe underwater, but the nymphs know a lot, so it would be useful to her in any case. Nicephorus takes the stone in her hand and thought about what she wants the nymph to wake up, and then she offers her to say what she wants because she will fulfill her request, and asks if she wants the girl to find her a match. The nymph asks the princess to find her a mate and wake her up, and then she tells her that her mate is inside the stone and some people did it on purpose. Because she was sealed for over 1,000 years, she understands what it's like to be locked up. The main character says that once she meets these people, she won't just leave it like that, because she also knows very well what sealing spells are. The nymph informs that if she finds her mate, she will tell about it. Nicephor says that no matter how much time and money it takes, she will definitely find her mate to learn about her spell. The main character asks the prince where he found this stone. He answers that he bought it at auction. However, she claims that this is only half and that for it to work, a pair is needed. And there may even be several of them. Scion says that they need to collect as many of them as possible. And right now, the largest auction in the world has opened. And since the auction is held at night and not during the day, he suggests that she go with him. Hearing this, the main character claims that she will go with him. And at that time, she thought that she would definitely find her partner and looked at the stone. Pieces of one stone created in one place are called family pieces, and if someone wanted to seal with it, he would have no choice but to use a stone of the selected class. Nicephor is thinking about finding a mate. It won't be too difficult for this nymph, and if she can find an object with the same shape, appearance, and place of origin as his. Sitting in the carriage, the little girl looked at the prince and thought that she barely recognized him, because not only had he changed his appearance, but she had too. The prince announces that in a few days, Nathaniel and Hybert will arrive at the Pearl Palace. And he thinks he has already said this, but since they are already here, he will buy a gift for Nathaniel. Hearing this, the main character thought that Nathaniel was going somewhere far away, and it seemed that Zion did not want to talk about it now. The girl said that she had a blank check from the emperor, and then showed it and said that they could buy whatever he wanted. The prince announces that they have arrived and that there will be a lot of people at the auction. He says that guards are watching over them, but still offers the girl to hold his hand tightly. When they went inside, Zion offered her binoculars and said that this way she would be able to see better. The young gentleman offers the girl to support the binoculars because they are heavy. And when she looks through them, she reports that number 9 looks good. The host says that he thanks everyone who joined them today. And then he says that the last day of the auction is starting, and he hopes that they will not spare their money. Nicephor turns to the prince and says that she wants number 9. And he says that this number is still far away and therefore suggests that they take a little nap. Heard this girl object and say that she will watch. And the prince asks if she can't sleep. The main character thought that she was in the body of a child, and she really wanted to sleep. And she thought that she would lie down for a bit. Suddenly, the girl heard that the next number was number 9. And then she screamed that it was her turn. The prince suggested that she not worry about the price, but just place a bet. When the bidding began, Nicephorus turned to His Highness and said that she had seen this man before, and he was Roxborough, and he, the prince's subordinate. Zion is sure that Roxborough's lackey wants the thing too. And apparently, he somehow learned about the importance of number 9. The prince says that they should make the biggest bet, and the girl supports him in this. Sometime later, the main character found out that they had succeeded, and she happily thanks the prince. Zion looked at Roxobo and thought that he deserved it since he lost in this auction. The young gentleman asks Nicephorus if she wants anything else. The little lady replies that she needs a few more things, and he says okay, and tells her that more stones will appear. Suddenly, the main character saw the stone and thought that she needed it as a couple. And at that moment, she thought that she was incredibly lucky, and she would make the biggest bet again. Servant Roxobo. Very Evil says that if it weren't for this little brat, he would have this stone. After all, King Roxobo ordered this man to find an incredible gem worth hundreds or even thousands of ordinary stones. The servant reflects that this stone was better than all the others. If only he had known that such a stone would appear, he would not have spent money on the others. And he does not even have time to sort out the stones he has already bought. And he thinks that everything is wrong and he will have to get rid of them. At this time, a man approaches him and says that the crown prince has ordered to find out everything about the recent buyers of precious stones. At that moment, the servant Roxobo realized that he would return to his master empty-handed and without a single one of those stones on which they would spend a fortune. Nicephorus looks at the jewels and thinks that they are so big that she will be able to make exactly 4 pieces. The girl thinks about what she will do and how far apart the people with these brooches are. Thanks to her, they will always be able to feel each other's state. The main character understands that all the brooches will turn red, even if one of them gets hurt. And with such a body, this is too much for her. After a while, the little lady says that everything is ready, but she has no strength at all. But the main thing is that order is more important. After all, the nymph became a fish. The girl looks at the water fish and says that it is time to tell them about the seal that was placed on her. The fish says that this seal of time and rebirth at a certain moment is removed by itself and gives the opportunity to be reborn. Nicephorus realized that they were unable to kill her then because of this seal. The nymph reports that she has not lost her memories and has not lost herself. And these are the characteristics of a sealed person. And on top of that, she has a strong protective spell cast on her, protecting her from external evil. The girl thought that nymphs do not lie and the sea does not lie, and this means that all this must be true. The main character says that it is a lie, but the fish objects and says that it is not true. And the girl says that Corton and Doom betrayed her. And she does not understand what kind of reincarnation with protection is this. The nymph assures him that there is no doubt about this seal's design. And then she remembers that he assured her that no matter what happened, he would not leave her. Nicephor thought that it didn't matter what kind of magic they used. Since they didn't say anything, they put a seal on her. And they didn't want to understand her at all. And they weren't on her side at all. The main character thought that she would never forgive these traitors. Nathaniel came into his sister's room. Brother asks if she is okay. The little lady asks if he came alone. And he answers that his brother has some business in the province, and therefore he will return a little later. Nicephor asks Nadi if he is also going somewhere. And he answers that it is hard for him to leave his dear Fofo. And he says that he does not want to leave, but when he returns, she will already be quite grown up. The girl asks how far he is going. The brother answers that these are winter exercises and so he is going to the pole. Because every high-ranking family must certainly send this representative. And the elder brother is a duke and therefore he will have to go. At this time, the main character thought that it would be better if she went, but since she was still a little girl, she had to stay here. Nathaniel assures that everything will be fine, and they all go along the usual route and there will be magicians with them. The little lady reached under her pillow and pulled out a stone and said that she had made it for him. Seeing the gift, the brother said that he thanked her. And then he cried out with delight that he had received a gift from his little sister, and that it was a special gift for him. The girl asks him if he likes it, and the brother replies that he does. And at that moment, she thought that she knows it is useless to trust others, but she cannot deny her affection for him. Nicephor suggests to her brother that he must carry this stone with him, and he must promise her this. And he assures her that this thing will always be with him. And he promises. The little lady thought that she was much calmer now, and then she stretched out her arms for him to lift into hers. The brother asks why she is so charming and then says that she wants to be like her older brother. Hearing this, the girl thinks that she is older than her brother by many hundreds of years, and he does not know about it. Nicephorus hugs her brother and tells him to be careful, otherwise she will get angry. And he replies that he will be very, very careful and hugs her. A few days later, the main character thought that the emperor was supposed to come to her at 10 o'clock, but now it was already 12. Suddenly, a maid enters the room and announces that the emperor's escort knight, Lucas, is heading towards her. When the knight greeted the girl, she thought that he had come to invent excuses for the operator's lateness. Lucas reports that the emperor has an attack of madness, and this attack is very strong. And it happened 2 hours ago. And it is also much stronger than usual. And yet the emperor has not gotten better. Nicephor, screaming, asks why she was not called. The knight explains that they thought the attack would not be so dangerous and therefore called her late. And then he apologizes. The little lady asks if Zion is okay. Lucas says he is feeling a little better now, but the backyard of his palace is completely destroyed. And at that moment, the girl thought that everything is very bad. When the knight came with the girl to the master's room, she saw the prince sitting and happily asked her if she had come. The little lady immediately ran up to him and then asked if he was still feeling unwell. She also wondered if he was okay, and Zion replies that he is fine because she is near him. The girl touches his chest and says that he should be better. And at this time, she does not understand, because they had a resonance, why he is not getting better. Nicephor turns to the servants and asks if they have any medicine, but the servant replies that medicine does not help during attacks. At this time, the main character thought that she needed to help him and there must be a way. And then she remembers that the book said about touch, and also that resonance works better with touch. The little lady kisses the prince and thinks that since she is doing it anyway, she will take the opportunity to make him feel better. The girl saw that everything was fine with the prince, and she understood that the power of a kiss was so great. Zion thanks the girl and says that she is his angel, happiness and good luck, and then apologizes for making her worry. At this time, the main character thought that she was glad that the prince was finally feeling better. And then she held his hand and said that she would become his family. And also, if he felt bad again, he should just tell her about it. The prince replies that he will definitely tell her this, since they are now a family. The emperor says that Zion has already fallen asleep again, and he doesn't understand when she will stop being angry and asks the little lady about it. At this time, Nicephore is extremely unhappy. And the girl thought that, to be honest, she is almost not angry. But he was late, and that is true. His Majesty asks the girl what he can do to make her stop being angry. Nicephore stretches out her hand to him and tells him to give her money. And then he claims that time is money and he must give it to her. The girl reports that 100 gold coins per second of his precious time. The emperor heard this and cried out, asking if she was a creditor. And he did not understand why she spoke so clearly about everything that concerned money. However, the little lady replies that he has upset her and says that she was waiting so much, and therefore the gold will fix the situation a little. The emperor says that he really can't just squander the state treasury, and he asks if he can give her a gift. And it could be, for example, a beautiful boat, so that she can always play on the water. And he will cast a spell so that the boat does not sink in the water. Nicephore was delighted to hear this, because she would be able to go to the beach with her often. Then she said that no spells were needed, and if the boat capsized, she would be able to splash around in the sea for a while. The girl asks how much it costs to cast the spell. His Majesty replies that it is 1 gold bar, and she offers to give it to her, and asks if he is a greedy beef. The emperor replies that he is not a greedy man. And the girl says that he is a big greedy man, and he has a terribly small soul. At this time, His Highness thought that he did not want to argue with the girl, and then said that he was making a deal with the little girl. Hearing this, she was happy, because she now has 1 gold bar and a boat. At this time, the prince thought that everything had gone well according to his plan, and it wasn't so bad to lose one's temper on purpose sometimes. After all, even though he was his uncle, he couldn't allow him and Nikki to spend time alone. The young gentleman remembers his mother's words, that one day he will have something that belongs only to him, and he thought that Nikki is only his, and he will not allow anyone to take it away. A few days later, it was time for Nathaniel to go on his training, which would last about 12 months, when, as many wizards are able to cast a spell, they can prevent possible accidents, incidents, and attacks. The brother approaches the little lady and asks if she wants to kiss him goodbye. And at that moment, she opens her arms for a hug and thinks that he just needs to come closer to her. Nathaniel asks if she wants to see how cool he is up close, and he wonders what she wants to do. The girl says that she has been building up her strength for this day, and then hugs her brother to cast a spell on him. And no matter how hard it is for him, his heart will never stop. And then she suggests that he be careful, and to reinforce this, she kisses him on the cheek. At this time, the young master thought that he felt like the whole world was at his feet. Hybert also came to say goodbye to his brother and told him to be careful and not to cause trouble. Nathaniel assures him not to worry and suggests that he keep a better eye on their fofo. When her brother left, the main character thought that she didn't even want to think about not seeing him for so long. But she understood that he would return in any case and in a year at the most. Hibbert turns to his sister and says that she is sweet and can cry. 5 years later, the worst thing that could happen to a 7-year-old child happened. Nicephore says that the needle is poisonous, and the older she gets, the more it infuriates her. After all, she understands that the poison doesn't affect her anyway, and it is originally a liquid. The main character calls on the services and tells them to come to her quickly, and then says that they are unworthy swindlers who are trying to kill such an unfortunate and small child like her, and asks if they have any conscience at all. The girl offers the servants to apologize, but they remain silent, as if they had water in their mouths. And she thought about how they decided to ignore her order. Suddenly, the little lady remembered that she had forbidden them to speak because she had bound their throats with magic. But when she let them go, they begged for mercy. Nicephore says that in any case, there are places where it is better not to poke your nose, and then asks if they understood everything. And at that time, she thought that it was good that she was already 7 years old, and now it was easier for her to use the power of the sea. The girl turns to the servants and says that they will be sentenced to death for attempting to kill the dragon princess. Then she says that they were just doing their job and asks if the real customers are guilty, and if they are definitely novice killers. The main character says that they can be used, and to start with, she will simply throw them into the dungeon. Nicephorus thought that it was already 9 o'clock and that Zion would soon be coming to her. And then she heard the sound of footsteps and thought that he usually came at that hour, and she did not understand why he was so early. The girl thought that he would be worried if he found out that she had dealt with the killers herself, and he might even get angry. Guys, it's time. She thought that she could pretend to be asleep and nothing would happen. The prince sat down on the bed next to the girl and said that he had already arrived. And then he asked what had happened. The little lady got up from the bed and said that she knew nothing. Sion claims that she has imprisoned the murderers and asks if that is not the case. She replies that she does not understand what he is talking about, and the prince claims that she still does not trust him. Hearing this, the main character objects and says that it is not so, screaming. And at this time, she thought about changing the topic, and she asks Zion why he came so early. His Highness explains that there is a big meeting today, and that very topic will be discussed today. And at this time, the little lady thinks that she is not finished and asks if he is talking about the worst thing that can happen to a 7-year-old. The prince replies that she is right, and then explains that today they will discuss whether to continue the search for those missing during the winter exercises. Nathaniel, who became part of the winter exercises, never returned after 5 years. The girl understands that the aristocrats who do not support the current emperor will be against it. And since they are against continuing the investigation, and their argument is that all previous attempts have been complete failures, the prince reports that the first and second search parties returned empty-handed, and so they do not want to waste resources. Hearing this, the main character says that they are terrible people, who only oppose the will of the emperor. And she does not understand how one can be so insensitive when even their family members were at those trainings. Sion explains that they always sent illegitimate children or offspring that they didn't think had much potential to the training. And the girl understands that this is probably why they don't want to spend money on searching. And she doesn't know what they have there. But Nathaniel is very important to her. His Majesty asks the girl if they can have breakfast first and then asks if she is hungry. Sitting at the table, Nicephore reports that her brooch is still in order. And the prince replies that his is too. And the girl says that her brother is still alive, and she does not understand how one cannot go looking for him. At this time, the main character thought that there was blood flowing through her, and apparently that was why she became too strong, and holding a fork in her hand, she broke it. The surprised prince asks if the girl is okay and if she is hurt. She replies that everything is fine, and that it was not she who was hurt, but the fork. The boy says that it is clear to him that since the fork is gone, he will feed her himself. At this time, the main character thought that with the help of the sea giants, they could easily find Nathaniel. And she wondered if there was information about the sea giants in the secret library. And she also wondered if she could enter this library, since she was already 7 years old. The prince says that he does not think so, because for that she needs to marry him and become empress. And then, screaming, he offers to marry her right now. Zion says that he is not an emperor yet, and therefore they will not be able to, since only the emperor, empress, and crown prince can officially enter there. At this time, the main character thought that she had asked the prince this question more than 100 times, but his answer was always the same, and she thought about sneaking into the secret library. But the library was under a serious spell, and so she could not remove it. After all, this spell was cast by Coorten. Nicephore doesn't understand what he wanted to hide so badly. Sion says that if he lets her go there, the noble faction will raise a ruckus, as if the crown prince is interfering in the affairs of the empire and is in cahoots with the little dragon princess. The girl thinks that you need to do something incredible and somehow distinguish yourself in their eyes, and so that the aristocrats would not even dare to open their mouths. And as a reward, ask for access to the secret library. The young gentleman heard this and said that his girlfriend was a smart girl. Well, he didn't understand what she needed to do to surprise these aristocrats. And then he said that he would find out if she could help with anything at the meeting because she was such a cutie. Nicephore, screaming, says that the meeting is coming soon and suggests that he go faster. The prince replies that he is already on his way, and then says that they will see each other later. The little lady went to the dungeon and said that the servants were behaving decently, and then asked who of them wanted to die here and who wanted to live. She heard a silent cry and thought that was fine, because she had a good heart and so she would spare them. Princess says that if they become official mercenary assassins of the castle. Heard this one rumor says that it is some kind of torture. But the little lady assures them that this is an official position. They will even be paid overtime at night and on weekends. The girl says that the castle has specially established these positions for them, and the servant asks if she will have a salary. The princess answers, screaming, that considering the danger of the work, 500 gold pieces a month. The main character says that if they think about betraying her, they will immediately become shark food. The men fell to their knees and told her that they were her loyal servants. Then she told her that they really didn't want to kill her, and it was all because of the Crescent's order. Hearing this girl thought that the Crescents were the largest assassin group in the Empire, and despite the active investigation led by the Emperor, the true goals and motives of the organization had still not been revealed. The main character remembers that the previous guys they caught were also from the Crescents, and they also tried to kill her. Nicephore, addressing the servants, says that in any case, they now serve her and asks if they understood this. The mercenaries, in order to save their toughness, agreed with the girl to become her servants. And then she says that she gives them their first order. She tells them to tell them where their main headquarters is. The princess recalls that at the age of 5, she learned to escape from the palace. When they left the palace, the men showed her the gold coin store, in the back of which they received the order. The man says that there is a workshop there. And when they knocked on the door, the seller opened it and claims that this place is not for children. The guy who worked in the shop turns to the little lady and tells her that she can't come in, and at that time the servants pulled out their swords and scared him. At that time, the main character thought that they had already started working off their 500 gold. The servants scream and say that they may not be the best at contract killings, but they fight superbly. Nicephorus entered the room with determination and saw men who were asking in surprise who had let this little girl in there. The girl says that she has a question for them, and one of the men answers that they are scary guys and suggests that she come when she breaks away from her mother's breast. The main character replies that she would be happy to, but her mother is already dead. And at that time, she dealt with them with the help of magic. And then she caught one by the hair and asked if he knew the Crescents, but the man did not answer her, and she thought that she had gone so far and it was no use. These men told her the following, that the Crescent Moon was indeed looking for the killers through intermediaries. However, even the middlemen didn't know who was behind the Crescent. After all, when the Crescent contacted someone, they don't send letters and they don't send people. They just pass by someone on the street and quietly pass on the order. Hearing this, the female protagonist thought that everything was so confusingly complicated, and in the end, even if she found more intermediaries, they still did not know the true face of the Crescent Moon. And she realized that it would be nice to see the Crescent Moon directly contact the intermediaries. Nicephorus thinks it's unlikely that everything will be resolved so easily. At this time, the General Assembly, which is held once every 3 months, and which all influential aristocrats, heads of families, and their heirs must attend, or aristocrats without their own estates, but who have great influence in the Imperial castle. And a total of 333 people participate. Since the meeting began, all the talk has been about the Dragon Princess. The nobleman says that the princess is already 7 years old, but the crown prince's condition has not changed yet. And his wife suggests that the prophecy was wrong. The man claims that he believed that the Dragon Princess would help him overcome and that maybe she just wasn't a real Dragon Princess. He also thinks that a real Dragon Princess would definitely be able to do it. However, there was a woman in the room who defended the princess and claimed that it was inappropriate to say so now since the princess was only 7 years old. Another gentleman says that this girl was born with a great prophecy, but now she is still young and so they should wait a little. And his father claims that an oath is not needed for this. The dark-haired aristocrat says that it is impossible to ignore that Roxborough is gathering strength. And if they invade in 10 years, they too will say that the princess is still young and not strong enough. The gentleman says that after meeting the Dragon Princess, Crown Prince Roxborough did not show up in the Empire, and it can be said that the child's pride was hurt. The elder says that if they are really up to something, then the prince needs to get rid of his madness as soon as possible. The black-haired aristocrat claims that the princess, who is supposed to cure the prince's illness, does not even appear in public, thereby showing a complete lack of good manners. And he does not understand why, if she is a real dragon princess, she would behave like this. Hybert enters the meeting and says that this man with black hair is very cheerful, and then he asks to repeat his words. And he says that they were just discussing the condition of the younger sister. Hearing this, the aristocrats thought that he was immediately addressing them informally, and that he was not polite. Hebert claims that after their words, someone might think that she was deliberately called the Dragon Princess, and then says that if he thinks she is a fake, he offers to bring the real princess. And if he can't do that, then he should shut his mouth. The aristocrat reports that he sees the Duke beside himself with anger, and he understands that he does not want such rumors, and his family, of which there are already few members left. Hybert replied that he can think what he wants, and it does not bother him. After a few minutes, the aristocrats thought about how many times they had seen it. It still amazed them. After all, the power of the sea dragon separates a part of the consciousness and can give it a form without the body itself. The Emperor announces that they are starting a general meeting right now. At this time, the main character was walking with the maid. But when the maid saw the shell, she picked it up and asked if it was beautiful. The little lady answered that she liked shells. The maid says that this shell is just like a little lady and it is beautiful and so valuable, and then suddenly it falls to the earth. At this time, Nicephore thought that she did not understand at all how she became a maid in the Imperial castle. And then she remembered that she said that she was just lucky to get this job, and the little lady realized that she must have been so lucky. The main character thought that the meeting should have ended by now. She wet her dress, and she wondered what the maid would do if she turned away for a second. The maid turns to the princess and says that she is all wet and might get sick. However, the girl calms her down and says that everything is fine, since it is summer. The maid says that if she has even a runny nose, Mrs. Adele will kill her. Then she picks the girl up and suggests that she go quickly. The maid says that she will play with her some more tomorrow. Then she asks if she talked to the sea, and that's very sweet. Nicephorus reflects on the fact that she cannot say that she really spoke to the sea. And when they came to the palace, the prince saw the girl and said that she was all wet. The girl explained that they were playing at the sea and then asked if the meeting was over yet. Zion tells the little lady to take a hot bath and then he will tell her the good news when she comes back. The girl is surprised to hear this because he will tell her about the morning and then tells her that she is going. The main character reflects on the fact that apparently there is still a way to find Nathaniel. The little lady quickly washed and changed her clothes and then ran to the prince and reminded him that he had promised to tell everything. The prince says that Mr. Risean can also listen. And at this time, the little lady thought that their relationship still left much to be desired. Sion tells the princess not to be surprised, since the ruins of the sea giants were discovered, and then asks if she knows who the sea giants are. And at that time, the little lady thought about the fact that she had even met them before. When Atlantis still existed, they lived together in the sea, and some of them were sea giants. They usually lived about 200 years, and the leaders lived up to 500. However, due to their long life, they left almost no offspring, and therefore washed up to the current time. And at that time, the girl thought that she felt strange because of this, because she did not think that something could remain. The prince reports that first of all, a huge path was found, and they also found stone pillars with unknown symbols. Hearing this, Haber assumes that it was a temple. Sion says that he does not know because they do not have many records left, and thinks that this is such an important discovery. Nicephore thought that for modern people, Atlantis is something incredible. And if they find other magical objects of that time, they will sell them for a huge amount, and, of course, many of them, found by the Imperial family, belong to them. The girl suggests that there are items that the Imperial family has not found, and if 10 items are found, which are cast by the spell of the sea giants. And at this time, the prince says that he recommended the Risean family as assistants to the team to explore the ruins. Nicephore asks the young gentleman if she can join them, and he says yes. And at that moment, the little lady thought that they would not find a translator like her, and so she will try to find and take all her things. Recently, the heroine thought about the fact that they can't send a third search party because of a lack of money, and she understands that she will earn it then. A few days later, they set off for the ruins as another team of explorers. The main character understands that on the map, the journey will take 10 days, but if you use the portal, the journey will take 5 minutes. Nicephore asks if they can get out of the carriage and then suggests that they do so. However, the maid objects and says that they cannot yet because she said that it is very dangerous. And at this time, the princess thought that they were too concerned about her. The prince says that outside the castle, there is a chance of robbers attacking and therefore it could be dangerous. However, the little lady says that she will go anyway, and Sion says that he knew she would say that. The young gentleman says that the ruins were found on a coast where no man had set foot for a long time, and there are strong winds and rough seas, and therefore it is considered an excellent place for an attack. At this time, the main character thought that he was right, because ordinary people would think so. Suddenly, the girl heard a voice from the nymph, which suggested that she not worry, because she had them. Sion says that he is sorry because he can't go with them and explains that he has to guard the castle. He then turns to the princess and says that she will have to tell him everything, and if she finds anything strange, then she should be careful. The young master explains that if something dangerous happens, then she should simply leave Master Visayan and run. At this time, the main character thought that she had never had a palace sink or turn into the sea because of her. And nothing like that had ever happened. Sitting in the carriage, the maid informs that they are leaving. And at this time, the girl became interested in how many ruins were discovered. And she does not understand whether 6 days and 5 nights will be enough for her to examine everything. Adele suggests that the princess should take a look since they had arrived. And when they got out of the carriage, the emperor and the count met them. The man reports that they have managed to decipher one stone. At this point, the princess is surprised because she does not understand how so many people could do so little. The emperor orders the decryption to be brought to him. And then he leaves and offers the princess to marry him. At this time, the girl thought that she would not follow him and went in the other direction. Adele asks the girl where she wants to go. The little lady explains that they must take a good look around, because she understands that the servants may not find anything yet. And at that moment, she thinks that there is treasure here that they have not yet found. And the little thief sets off to search. A few minutes later, the girl was there and thought about what she had already given here. Adele saw the worried girl and asked if something hurt her. However, she answered that everything was fine, and at that time she thought about what she remembered, because she had been in this place with Doom. The main character remembers that when she was still an empress, they visited a distant market of sea giants, because they needed to buy something. Doom said that there is also a sea giant market near the capital, and he does not understand why they wandered so far. However, the empress replies that they have not walked for a long time, and her stomach hurts. And she thinks that she ate something wrong. The empress announces that she is going for a walk and therefore suggests that they meet in a couple of hours. At this time, Doom asks why a person with a stomach ache would go for a walk. But the empress did not answer, and he thought that he did not understand when she had time. At this time, the main character remembers that she no longer remembers what exactly she wanted to buy, but it was definitely an item enchanted by the sea giants. Adele offers the princess to look at this. Nicephore thought that among the artifacts belonging to giants, there were often items for protection, since in these times there were frequent attacks of giants, and first she must find a place where there was a store of protection and decorations. And if something remains, the girl will take it for herself. The main character understands that if she is lucky, she will find something really valuable. And then she turns to the maid and offers to go inside. However, she objects and says that this is a historical place and she is afraid to break something. The little lady assures her that it is all right, as they are only going to look. The guard stops them and tells them that they are not allowed to go inside. The maid, screaming, asks how they dared to block the path of the great dragon princess. Then she says that they only want to look around and therefore they should not interfere. The guard apologizes for not recognizing Her Highness and then asks them to pass. When the little lady passes by, the guard thinks that he saw a fairy and then says that he will have to brag to everyone, and then changes his mind because he wants this moment to be his own. The maid looked at the wall and said that it was so huge and she didn't understand how it was possible, and she wondered if it would collapse. Suddenly, Adele sees statues that look like turtles. Nicephore explains that these things were originally installed on the ground, not on the seabed, and therefore nothing will fall apart. The little lady thinks that it's time for her to get down to business. Then she asks the nymphs if there are any magic items there. The fish quickly inspect the area, saying that everything has already been taken. The girl understands that thanks to the nymphs, she can secretly find jewelry. And they can do something else, and that is the ability to absorb everything and store it inside. Tiny nymphs could keep something as big inside as the puddle or pond they were born in. But the girl had no idea that her first attempt would be such a failure, and she doesn't understand where she can find the jewels faster. Adele offers the princess to look at what she discovered a secret staircase in Bavolki. Fell in there. And at that time, the main character thought that this is not a secret staircase because it looks like an entrance for short guests. Nicephore does not understand why the entrance is like this, since the giants are much larger. Adele asks how the maid is feeling, and Bavolki says that everything is fine, and then apologizes for making them worry. Adele suggests that the maid quickly get up and stop fooling around, and at that moment the girl thought that she must have hurt herself during the fall. Well, when she saw that the maid got up, there was not a single scratch on her. The main character looked at the entrance and thought that it was quite deep and an ordinary person would easily get hurt. And then she looked at the maid and did not notice that she had no injuries, and looked great. The princess thought that she didn't want to think about it anymore because she had so many other things to do. And then she thought that the maid was just lucky today, and that it was good that her maid didn't get hurt. Nicephor says that she thinks there is nothing else to do in this place. Then she asks where they should go next. And the little lady thinks about how there is nothing in this place, and she doesn't understand why everything is empty. And then she turns to her bracelet and suggests that it do something because it brings good luck. The main character says that they will go to only one place, and that's it. And then she runs away. Adele suggests that Bavoki take his time, as she will look after the princess. However, the maid objects to her, offering to go together. The little lady noticed that all the doors were open except one. And at that moment, she thought that maybe she would finally get lucky. Nicephorus points to the door and suggests that the maids enter the building. She also noticed that there was no guard. Adele asks the knight why this place is not guarded. He answers that this place cannot be entered, and that is why they were told not to guard it. Hearing this, the main character thought that there is definitely something there, and she smells money. The girl thought that they couldn't get in because they couldn't open the door, and so she just needed to find another entrance. The main character saw another door and thought that she only needed to remove the web from it. And then she cleaned up around the door with magic. The maid asks the princess in surprise if there is anything there. The girl replies that there is, but it does not open. Then Adele suggests that she try to open it. At this time, the main character thought that this place was cursed because it does not open, and therefore she needs to use her powers. The maid reports that she is the door, something is written. And the girl saw the inscription, "Use your powers, fight and win." Nicephorus thinks that maybe she should fight the building. After opening the door, she felt its energy. The nymphs inform her that she needs more energy than the building has, and only then will she be able to enter. And hearing this, the main character thought that it would not be easy for her. And then she orders the maids to stop anyone who tries to interfere with her. The guards inform the princess that no one can go there and it is dangerous there and she can get hurt. And the knight, screaming, says that she will not succeed either. Suddenly, Nicephorus opened the door and again ordered the maid to hold back the knights, and then she went inside and cried out joyfully about what she had found. The main character saw the treasures of the sea giants, among the many jewels. She found one of the symbols of ancient Atlantis, and the sea giants were masters of fine work. The girl looked at the ring and thought that such beauty could be under a spell, and that it was the second symbol of ancient Atlantis. Sea giants also like to make useless things and spells that can help take away someone else's food, and earrings only tell the wrong answers. Nicephoros believes that it doesn't matter what the spell is, since they are ancient anyway, and she can sell them for a higher price. At this time, the emperor enters the room and says that he was looking for her, and then asks if she was going to take all this for herself. The princess responds with a cry that not at all, and then explains that she just wanted to look around and then call the others. His Majesty looked around the room and said that there were many wonders in it. However, the girl objects and says that these are not just wonders, but real treasures. And she found all this and asks if this is not surprising. After all, only she could open this door. Nicephor tells her that she has found all of this, and it must all be hers. And then she tells her that if not, she will simply close the door and never open it. The head of the expedition heard this and said that all the things that are here look like real cultural heritage, and this cannot be allowed. The Duke asks the Emperor if he will really allow her. The Emperor asks the girl if he will allow her to keep what she has in her hands. And then he says that she has found an important place and therefore deserves it. At this time, the main character thought that His Majesty had agreed to her blackmail. The magician, screaming, turns to the Emperor and says that all these things are simply incredibly important. His Majesty asks why they did not come here themselves and find this place. And they were only able to decipher one stone pillar. Hearing this, the princess thought that it seemed strange to her that they were only able to decipher one pillar, because at first glance they did not seem particularly difficult. His Majesty says that the young dragon princess is a good girl, since she was the one who found this place. However, the Duke says that she knew in advance that there was treasure in this place, and she never told about it. The Emperor says whether he thinks he is babbling about such important information everywhere. Hearing this, the Duke bowed his head and apologized. At this time, the little lady felt sorry for them and thought that she could prepare a reward for them. And then she said that in exchange, she would decipher 10 stone pillars, and she could decipher them all in 5 days. Hearing this, the magicians were surprised and asked if she knew the language of the ancient sea giants. At this time, she thought that she was already 7 years old, and therefore she could begin to show her skills. The girl says that if they don't believe her, they can ask the great sage. And then they say that the princess can take whatever she wants. The magicians understand that it is incredibly important for the sages to decipher these stone pillars, and the same cannot be said about the magicians. Nicephorus thought that she was also offended, because she could have gone a little further and the nymphs would have been able to find something else. The main character thought that when she sold all this, she would be able to get a lot of money. Because of this money, she would be able to send this third expedition to search for Nathaniel. The next day, the sage turns to the princess and tells her that they haven't seen each other for a long time. And at this time, the lady realizes that after a long exchange of letters, she and Ingenios have become so close that she simply addresses him by his nickname. When the man took the girl in his arms, she said that he had even more wrinkles. And he said that it was all because he had not seen her for a long time and was sad for the princess. Nicephore reminds her that they saw each other only a few weeks ago. The man replies that an old man like him wants to see her as often as possible before he dies. Hearing this, the main character thinks that he shouldn't make her laugh, since he has at least 50 years left to live. The sage says that the princess does not like to beat around the bush. And then he suggests getting started. The girl says that the wedding of Morpholine and Cactus gave 50 rings and 40 precious stones as gifts. And the sea giants distributed these gifts at the wedding to all the guests. The head of the study asks the girl to read. Well, when she saw this inscription, she says that a bad word is written. Hearing this, the head thought that now he understands, because it seemed strange to them. The main character asks if anyone is against her receiving the treasure, and the head of the research group offers her to take everything. And at that moment, she thought that this is very good, since they officially belong to her. And she understands that she will not have problems with selling them now. Adele takes an umbrella and says that it might rain soon. The sage says that it will be difficult to decipher if it rains, and therefore suggests that the princess go and rest. The main character remembers that it was raining that day too, and she was late because she was looking for something. And then she said that Kawartanu would like it. The princess thought that it made no difference that it had rained that day, and that she had only been thinking about it in vain. And then she encouraged herself because she had already stopped frowning, because such a face did not suit a little girl at all. The emperor turns to the girl and says that at her age she would be better off jumping in puddles. This little lady does not understand why Kaortan suddenly spoke to her. After all, she understands that his increased interest can be dangerous for her. After all, before they communicated only thanks to Scion. Nicephoros tells the emperor that she doesn't want to and suggests that he do it himself. He squats down next to the girl and says that he doesn't think that playing in a puddle is for him. And he heard that she hired funny guys. Hearing this, the main character thought that he was talking about the Assassin's Guild. His Majesty says that he understood all this in order to find Nathaniel. And then he says that he will definitely send a third search party. The main character says that he is definitely alive, and she knows this thanks to the brooch. And therefore, he will definitely be found. The emperor reports that he heard about her from Lord Rician and asks when she managed to find her. The princess replies that she made it herself and gave it to him just in case. Hearing this, the emperor says that she has real talent. Kaortan reports that they were last seen in the polar region, but then they seem to have vanished. And the girl says that she could easily find him if she only went there. And at that time, she thought about why the sea giants had vanished. Nathaniel asks His Majesty, have they searched the seabed? And if they disappeared without a trace, then perhaps they fell down. And therefore they may be at the bottom. His Majesty replies that, to begin with, people will die if they end up on the seabed, because they cannot breathe underwater. And then he says that there were no signs of a shipwreck, and therefore she need not worry. The main character reflects on the fact that even their ancestors could not breathe underwater, and only she can do it. And no one from the century in which she lived is left. The servant informs His Majesty that the cardinal has arrived from Lamert, and Kaortan informs him that he is already leaving. The princess offers him to take his jacket, since he is such a slob and it is necessary to always dress neatly. His Majesty turns to the princess and says that only she can tell the temperature, that he is a slob. But he looks at the girl. He says that she is bored anyway and offers to go together to meet the cardinal. Nicephorus saw that the rain suddenly stopped, and then she saw the boy who greeted the emperor and thanked him for his assistance. At this time, the main character thought that the priest from Lamerta somehow looked very much like Doom, and she does not understand where the cardinal is. Assistant tells the girl that this is the cardinal who appeared one day, and despite his 11 years, he has excellent skills. And he was able to stop the rains and made the sun shine again. The princess doesn't understand how such a little boy can change the weather. The emperor turns to the services and says that they can return to work. The cardinal turns to the girl and says that he welcomes her. At this time, the main character thought that if he says one more word, it will be the end for him. The boy says that his name is Helio and he is from La Merta, and he is sincerely glad to meet the Princess of Dragons in person. And he asks if the lady wants candy. At this time, the princess thought that she did not understand why he looked so much like Doom. Suddenly, the girl felt that someone picked her up. And then she screamed that she was in pain and she asked him to control the force. His Highness replies that only in this way will she understand herself when she becomes stronger. And the girl, screaming, orders him to give her the elixir of the starfish. He replies that he will give it to her. She claims that he does not know what it is. The emperor announces that he will send for him when they return to the castle, and then says that she has had enough and must return. The princess asks if he is sending her back, and then claims that this is too much. Kay Orton holds the girl on his shoulder and says that if she is done with her business, she can return soon, since he still needs to supervise the excavations. And then he lets her go to the floor and suggests not to be friends with these suspicious guys. Nathaniel asks what difference it makes to him if she is friends with them or not. Helio asks the dragon princess what her name is. And at that time, the girl thought about how he says nothing even after these words, and then answers that she is Nicephorus Rician. The cardinal says that the lady can call him simply Helio. The main character ponders the idea of having the skills to become a cardinal at such a young age. Then the girl asks if he is not busy, if he can go with her. After that, the princess and Helio visited several places, and then she realized that he was not very good at orienting himself. After all, she had looked for him 4 times. The girl could not stand it and screaming, asks if he can't find the way. Then why? He came without an escort. The boy explains that the Holy Father told him that he himself should learn to navigate. And at this time, the main character does not understand why he seems so harmless to her. And it was stupid to consider him similar to Doom. Helios says that the princess had to walk longer because of him, and then asks if she wants a blessing to get rid of fatigue. Heard this girl asking how he can. The guy replies that it is his little trick, and then says that the protection of Lady Nicephorus will arrive. At this time, the girl felt that she did not feel tired at all. And then she thanked him and offered to be friends with him. And at this time, she thought that she wanted to receive a blessing more often. Helios says that her body is designed in such a way that it receives blessings well. And the girl asks if there might be people who do not receive them well. The boy explains that it is different for everyone, but he usually cannot give blessings to members of the Imperial family because they tend to be rejected. Nicephoros suggests that it may be because of the energy of the sea, because the power of the sea dragon that the Imperial family possesses causes their bodies to reject it. And perhaps that is why they cannot receive the blessing. The main character understands that this is all because of this scoundrel Corton. Helio turns to the princess and says that he is very sorry, but it is time for him to return. And he explains that he cannot leave the temple for a long time, and since evening has come, he must go. The boy says that if the princess needs him, she can call him at any time, and as a friend, he will be happy to help her. Nicephor suggests returning to the loop. In the evening, sitting by the fire, the girl thought about him calling her Zion, and then she ran to her tent and said that she was surprised every time she saw him, and she did not understand how the prince did it, and that made her even jealous. The prince explains that she will be able to do the same when she grows up, and then asks if everything is okay with her. The princess announces that she has a new friend, and her new friend gave her a blessing to recover, and the lady says that she will introduce them later. Zion says he'd be glad to meet her. The girl asks if there have been any new attacks while she's been gone. He explains that he's been in resonance for a long time, so everything is fine. Then he says she'll have a hard time when she gets back. Nicephor is sure that everything is fine, because it will end with one touch. And besides, it is Kyorton who is to blame for the fact that Sion received the curse. And the girl thought that she should try to lessen his suffering. Suddenly, the prince is missing, and the little knot lady doesn't understand what happened and asks about it. And then she screams for His Highness to be found. Adele reports that the stone column suddenly had a strange reaction, and so she was told to bring the princess as soon as possible. And then she says that the great sage went there first. At this time, the main character thought that she should go there with Hubert. The principal asks if they will go together, and he also joins them. And when they came to the column, their torches went out. And the knights say that they can't see anything. The prince says that he will help them light the torches and then return. At this time, the girl thinks that the object that caused the commotion has extinguished the torches. And then she asks the nymphs if they saw anything. The nymphs say that there are mercenaries there who have returned again. At this time, the main character thought that, thank God, everything is fine with Hybert and Adele. Suddenly, they heard a cry for help, and the princess remembered that she had forgotten about Bavoki. Nicephor asks the nymphs if they can see anything. They answer that they can't see anything. And she doesn't understand where Bovoka's voice came from. Suddenly, she saw a frightened maid who said that she was very scared. And at that moment, she thought that it was good that she was not injured. And then she suggested to her brother to go quickly to the place of the explosion. The main character thinks that the closer they get, the stronger the smell of blood becomes. And she wonders what happened there. When they came to the place, they saw a sage on the ground. And they understand that when the great sage was examining the tablet, suddenly an explosion occurred. At this time, the girl thought that in order to help Inga, she needed to destroy the tablet. And when the princess touched the wall, she saw an inscription that the great empress of Atlantis is an eternal friend of the sea giants. And at that very moment, anyone who touches this stone will be cursed, and only she will not be touched by the curse. It was written on the wall that she had to build the ship of Atlantis and find them in the permafrost on the snow-white land, where tears turn into ice floes, and they were waiting for her there. Nicephorus thought that the sea giants were still alive and they were waiting for her. But the girl realized that she first had to lift the curse from the sage. The magician tells the princess not to come closer, because the curse can spread. However, the girl says that Inga is her friend, and therefore she cannot leave him to die and she needs to remove the curse. Zion asks Nika if everything is okay and if she can lift the curse. And at that moment, the main character thought that she could. Well, when she used her magic, she got really tired and then fell to the ground. Her brother came up to her and said that she was okay because she just fell asleep. The emperor reports that the great sage is breathing and suggests taking him to the infirmary. The next day, Bovolki screamed that his majesty had woken up, and Adele went up to the girl and greeted her. The maid cries and says that, thank God, she woke up. However, the little lady does not understand why she is crying and asks about it. Adele says that she can't even imagine how worried she was. And what if something happened to her? The princess says that she does not understand what could have happened to her, and then assures that she is fine. And she wonders what is wrong with the great sage. The maid answers that he is fine and that he woke up about 3 hours ago and came to meet her. Adele asks if her mistress is hungry and then says that she will quickly prepare her breakfast. At this time, the protagonist thought that she was sorry that she had made so many people worry, but she felt so good after the power release for the first time in a long time. The little lady became curious about the tablet that had injured Inga. It was probably destroyed, and it definitely had a message from the sea giants on it, addressed to her. And they seemed to be sure that she would see that tablet. And she doesn't understand how they knew. Nicephorus thought that she would personally know when to meet them, and in order to meet the sea giants, she would have to build an Atlantean ship and go to where they live at the pole where Nathaniel disappeared. The next day, Adele screams and says that she must return to the palace as soon as possible. Then she claims that it is too dangerous for Her Majesty here, because she needs to be examined by her personal physician. At this time, the main character realizes that she feels that her body is healthy, but it does not obey her. And then she agrees and says that she does not care, because she needs to meet with Zion. The maid says that she will immediately begin preparations for departure. The expedition group thanks Her Highness for helping them. And if it weren't for her, they would have lost the great sage. And so the great sage is alive thanks to her. Nicephor claims that she did what she had to do. The sage says that, as expected, Her Majesty is very modest. The sage turns to the girl and says that he wants to thank her with all his heart, and then explains that he is afraid to die, even though he is already very old. The princess says that she doesn't want to lose Inga either. And then you assure him that he should live another 50 years. The little lady says that if he really wants to thank her, he can help her with something. And then she asks him to help her with influence in the magic tower. The wise man does not understand how he can help the girl and then asks about it. The little lady whispered something in his ear and then he agreed to help her. The princess, when she went to the palace, first wanted to meet Zion, because he was very worried about her. And it was the first time she'd been separated from him for so long. The girl ran down the corridor and thought that Zion's energy was so fickle. Suddenly, the girl was met by the prince's assistant and was surprised because he saw her. The princess explains that Zion doesn't know she's arrived, and that's why she wants to scare him. When she opened the door, the prince said that he had ordered not to let anyone in. And then he asked if she was tired of living. At this time, Nicephorus thought that she was seeing him like this for the first time, and it turns out that he is very serious when he works. The young gentleman saw Nikki, was very happy, and asked when she returned. And then he said that according to the official schedule, she was supposed to come tomorrow. The girl explains that she arrived early because she missed him. The prince says that he will have food brought, and then asks her to wait. He also wonders if she got what she wanted from those ruins. Nicephorus shows the prince the ring and says that it is a gift for him. And this is the secret that she spoke about, and therefore gives the ring only to him. The princess suggests trying to use the power on him, and then explains that this is a relic of the sea giants, and there is an interesting spell on it that will make the person next to it bald. Sion says that he uses it near his majesty, and then they smile. And he thanks the girl for the gift and says that he will keep it carefully. The prince says he doesn't understand what the smell is. He hears this girl asking what she smells like. Then he claims that someone left their scent on her, and he wonders who it is. The servant announces that they have brought a snack. And at this time, the main character says that this dish looks very tasty. The young gentleman asks who the new friend is, and the lady replies that his name is Helio, and he is the cardinal of the Church of La Merta. Nicephorus says that he commanded the rain to stop, and the weather immediately cleared up. Then she asks the prince if he knows how to do that. Sion tells that cardinals have power over certain things, and he must be able to control rain. And at that time, the main character thought that Helio was more capable than she thought. And it was good that she became friends with him. The prince thinks she had fun with her new friend Helio. The princess explains that they walked around in different places, and he even used a blessing on her. And at that time, she thought that Nathaniel would also enjoy listening to stories about the ruins. And she will definitely find her brother. After a while, the young master reflects on how he dared to leave his mark on what does not belong to him. And he does not understand how long the Church of La Merta has allowed itself to do such a thing. Sion is too angry to let it go. And at that moment, when he had the first resonance and Nicephorus, the desire to kill that he constantly felt subsided. And so, for the first time, he felt alive. The prince thought that Helio left his disgusting smell on Nikki because he wanted to take her away from him. The prince ordered his servants to destroy the temple. The mercenary asks the believers whether to kill them. The young gentleman claims that Nikki won't like it. Then he suggests that they simply demolish the temple and destroy the things that bring in the profits from the donations. And they should also make sure that no one gets hurt. Sion doesn't understand what to do because even next to her, he still goes crazy. At this time, Helio announces that he has returned, and the gentleman with red hair asks if he has met the dragon princess. In the central temple of La Merta, there is a feeling which is called God. He took a part of himself and created him Helio. The boy reports that he has met the dragon princess. He says that he is not sure if she is who he hopes she is. At this time, Helios thought that he would read his mind because he felt that he was created only out of necessity. And this man did not love him. The boy remembers that he was happy when the girl said that she would be his friend. Helios says that he definitely left a mark of God on the princess, and it seems she didn't notice it, and she gave it to him as a friend. The man asks if he got along well with this dragon. And at that moment, the boy thought that he would not escape from here until the end of his life. At this time, the aristocrats are talking about how Her Majesty saved the life of the great sage, and they do not understand how such a young girl did such a big task. And they also assume that Her Majesty has special abilities. Nicephorus abilities. Abilities and achievements that right now can be put in a secret archive. And she should be patient until public opinion takes root. The main character doesn't understand what to do until then. After all, Sion should have arrived already. When the girl opened the door, she saw the prince's assistant, who reported that His Majesty had not yet gotten up. Hearing this, the girl thought that perhaps he was sick, and she was worried because he had never slept for so long. The princess says that she will go to Sion and suggests the servant not to worry so much. And at that time, she thought that it could be because of the obsidian ring that she gave him yesterday. Nicephor. When she entered the prince's room, she saw that he was lying on the bed, and when she came closer, she touched his face and realized that he had a fever. The girl asks what the doctor said and wonders if he took his medicine. Then she claims that he felt ill because he worked late again. His Majesty reports that he is fine, and then explains that he wanted to stand and see her. And it turned out that she herself came to him. The main character assures him that she will come until he gets better, and he should not doubt it. And then she tells him that he cannot work today. Sion says that he has some things to do that he has to finish, and the little lady says that she will do it all for him. And at that time, she thought about how she was an empress in her past life, and she doesn't do things just because she doesn't want to. Nicephor asks the young gentleman if she should call the servant. He tells her that he gave them the day off as soon as he felt he had a fever. Hearing this, the girl thought that he did not want to show them his weakness, and only she sees him like this and therefore must protect him. The little lady asks if there are any things to do, whether they are on the table. The prince answers that all the papers are on the table, and then the girl says that she will do them. After a while, the main character asks what these papers are. The young gentleman explains that it is connected with the New Year's party. And at this time, the little lady understands that he must participate in such events. The main character thought that instead of these boring parties, it would be 100 times more useful to just look at the sea. Nicephor asks the prince if it is possible to have a party outdoors this time, and not indoors, but at sea. And it is possible to go boating, since New Year is a summer season. Zion says he's interested, then asks if Nikki would like to write the instructions himself. The princess agrees with him, and at that time thought that she would write everything down to the smallest detail. While working, the princess fell asleep. And then the young master took her in his arms and said that she could sleep some more. And she herself is so small and always tries to protect him. The prince put the girl in his bed and thought that she was beautiful. The young gentleman reflects that he is sorry that he pretended to be sick and made Nikki work, but she will worry if she finds out about the destruction of the boar, and it would be great to work with her every day. Zion looks at the work the princess has done and thought about what you have in the documents above, and they are the most important, but something is missing. And Nikki is so expecting this banquet. The prince took the seal and thought about how it was used for emergency orders. And then he put it on the documents that the girl was working on. Sitting on the bed next to the girl, the prince thought that thanks to her, he now has new dreams. And he looks at her sleeping face and thinks about what she dreams about now. And even about the fact that they will get married one day. The young gentleman understands that he will have to wait a very long time since the princess is still a child. 3 days later, the emperor held a special meeting for Togo to honor the dragon princess's contribution to the ruins. He says that the dragon princess has made great contributions to the development of the state and therefore deserves a reward. The magician reports that the princess saved the life of the great sage, and therefore the sage's tower will never forget her feat. The aristocrats say that the young dragon princess assessed the situation faster than either of them, and she is a very wise and noble person. The emperor says that he wants to give her a reward. However, the girl objects and says that the reward will be an entrance to the secret library, and then asks what merits she has there. The girl believes that she has saved a great sage, discovered a bunch of cultural treasures, and translated the tablets quickly, and then claims that this will be enough to get her through. The duke turns to the girl and asks if she understands what she is talking about. When she hears this, the girl thinks what kind of idiot dares to ask her such questions. And then she says that the documents she is looking for are there. The duke offers the lady to tell him what the documents are, and then claims that it will be easier if he finds them himself and brings them to her. At this time, the princess thought that she did not like him at first sight. The emperor heard this and thought that he would cover for her, but she just had to start a fuss. Nicephor says that it is none of his business. The man says that, as expected, her grace knows no bounds, and she is so noble and majestic. A man asks a lady to repeat what she just said, and she says that she is not his mind. Hearing this, he says that he has been waiting 10 years for someone to say that. The emperor proposes to consider the matter again, and then asks if everyone agrees with the duke. The aristocrats say that for the princess's merits, in addition to access to the secret library, she is entitled to other rewards. And then they offer to choose the one who will go with the princess to the library. The main character looked at the count and thought that he was planning something, and she would like to know what he was thinking about. His Majesty announces that this meeting is being declared closed and the secret library will be opened right now. Hearing this, Nicephorus thought that she would finally see the notes left by Kaordan. The girl asks the prince when she can enter. He explains that they must wait for the arrival of 5 witnesses from noble families, and 1 each from the wizards and sages. After all, without them, even the emperor himself cannot enter. The main character thought that she needed to look around while they waited, and she didn't understand what was so great there that she couldn't go in there alone. The princess touched the pole and thought that it was made of the ribs of whales with hexagonal tails, and they were difficult to catch because they were very dangerous. Nicephorus wonders if Doom helped build this library, and she doesn't understand why she keeps thinking about them so much lately. When the little lady saw the emperor, she asked if they could come in now, and he asked the witnesses to sign. And then he turned to the girl and said that there was only a little time left and she had to be patient. When they entered the library, the princess saw that it was very ancient and everything was perfectly preserved. And this is probably because of the whale bones. Kaorton reports that the first emperor's records are in another place. Hearing this girl went to look for it. And in a few minutes, she found the first emperor's diary. The prince says that he will help Nikki because only authorized members of the Imperial family can take out this book. And when he takes out the book, he says that she can take her time and read, and he will not disturb her. Opening the book, the girl thought that this was indeed the Kaorton she knew. After all, there were periods at the end of sentences and crooked handwriting. And this is what she had seen hundreds of times in documents. The main character thought about how she had a strange feeling from Togo, that she was reading something he had written again. And it was probably because of Togo that she wanted to believe that he wouldn't have passed it on to her. Sorceress wonders if he wanted to be emperor that badly. And so she suggests that he should have simply asked her, and she would have gladly given in. At this time, the main character reads that he should calm down because the ruler must exercise self-control. One thought that she should read what was written. The girl reads that a month after the foundation of the state, everything is going well. The people who needed faith in something easily accepted the new religion. But they still know the man who is still deep in their hearts, and they still have not forgotten the goddess of the sea. At this time, the main character thought that the religion of La Mert was founded by Corten, and she does not understand what kind of sea goddess she is and does not remember such a religion. Nicephorus thought that she needed to go to the main temple of La Mert as soon as possible. Suddenly, the girl saw her face on the cover, and she does not understand why he agreed on it like that, and it would have been better if he had simply drawn half a face. And then she saw that it was written that their goddess, whom they should always remember and glorify, was Tarasa, the goddess of the sea. At this time, the princess thought that he had sealed her, although he considered her a deity and condemned her to suffering. The main character thought that the diary did not say that Kaorton lived happily, and in the diary there was only his pain. Nicephor reads that a year after the founding of the state, his body is in poor condition and his blood is cooling and then boiling again. And he cannot describe this pain, as if his body is falling apart and coming back together. And perhaps his children will have to endure this because he is gradually losing his self-control. Kaorton understands what he has done, having reached this point, and there is no turning back, since the sin he must endure is the price for his stupidity, which he left for later once again. And he must endure it all. The princess read the penultimate page of the diary and thought that there were no more documents linking her and Kaorton. The main character, having read the diary, thought that he, as always, interrupted in mid-sentence. And in the end, he could achieve only one thing. She was reborn again in this generation. The girl understands why he sealed her away for 1,000 years, and he didn't write why he did it. But she wonders why there is nothing about his friend Doom in this diary. And Kaorton gave it to her because of Doom. The princess believes that there must be more in the diary and that this cannot be everything. Suddenly, the main character saw a page that was thicker than the others, and she thought that they were glued together. And she also remembers that this is a method that Atlantis would use to hide something important. Nicephor thought that if she carefully wet the edges of this page and peeled it apart, she could read what the author wanted to hide. The main character remembers that when the seal was removed and she woke up as a child, the people she knew were already dead, and everything that was dear to her disappeared. And wake up alone in the future and live with memories of the past. The girl remembers how lonely she was, and she couldn't even imagine that she would be able to endure this deep loneliness. Suddenly, the girl heard the prince asking her if she was okay. The princess replied that she would read a little more. And at that moment, she thought that Zion was so kind and he didn't even try to find out anything. At this time, Nicephorus opened the glued pages and saw a sign, and she does not understand what it means. But she understands that this note was written by Doom. And she thinks about the fact that he left something behind. The main character does not understand how she will explain this. After all, she does not know what is being discussed since only some numbers are written. The emperor, who saw the girl on the floor and asked why she was acting like that. And at that moment, he thought that she had found what she was looking for, because apparently that was why she was acting like that. His Majesty approaches the girl and tells her that she has had enough of lying on the floor and suggests that she get up. At this time, the girl shows him numbers, and he does not understand what numbers she is talking about. And then he says that, in any case, it is high time for them to leave and suggests that they get ready. Nicephor thinks that they conspired together and betrayed her, and she does not understand why Kaorton hid this note. And she was reborn 1,000 years later as a princess of dragons. And that's it. The prince asks the girl if she has learned everything she needed to know. And at that moment, the girl thinks that she does not understand who the first dragon princess was. After all, the diary only wrote about Kaorten's suffering. When the princess came to her room, she was very thoughtful all the time, and the servants did not understand what had happened to her. At this time, the main character is thinking about the numbers that were in the notes and that she looked at. Since the dates were written in Kaorten's diary, and she suggests that this may not even be related to his diary, the girl thought that she needed to remember the notes she had read that were connected with Kaorten and Atlantis. The princess remembers that the sea was destroyed because of the sins it committed. Because a simple man, as he cannot know this, and the sin has already been committed and cannot be corrected. Nicephorus read that Atlantis, with all its rich culture, disappeared under the sea, and only 2 apostles survived. And at that time, she thought that perhaps doom meant the number of survivors. And she realizes that the numbers were wrong, because they were not the only ones who survived. The main character remembers the prince and thought that he reminds her of someone. After all, Roxborough's ancestors could be Atlanteans. And perhaps the first princess of dragons was from Atlantis. And they say that she cured the madness of the first emperor, and she must be no ordinary person. The girl believes that Kaorten was not cursed by the sea dragon if he himself cast the curse on himself and his descendants. And this means that the dragon princess definitely used Atlantean magic to cure him. The main character reflects on the fact that, most likely, the Risaean family was created so that someone outside the Imperial family could lift the curse from his descendants, and that someone is probably her, because Kaorten hoped that she would be the one to lift the curse. And he couldn't imagine how complicated and convoluted the plan was just because of the one that Doom loved. The girl understands that there must be some other reason, and she remembered that you can't take an oath until you're 15. And at that time, she thought that I still have so long to wait, and it's 7 long years. Nicéphoro hears that the servants are arguing about who should approach her, and she thinks that they have completely lost their fear. The servant turns to Her Majesty and offers to try the cake, and then explains that he bought it just now and with his own salary. The princess thanks him and then asks if he is dear. However, he suggests that she try it quickly. And then the girl takes a piece and thinks that it is very tasty. And then she thinks that she has learned a lot. And that is enough. Nicephorus remembered the words of the servant who said that he bought the cake with his salary and thought that she should slowly start earning money. The main character says that she will earn money. Hearing this, Haber asks why she suddenly wanted to do something like that. He also wonders how she is going to earn money. At this time, the girl thought that she had come to this decision after much thought, and he did not even understand this. The girl shows her jewelry that she found in the ruins and says that when she sells it, she will earn money. And she does not understand what to sell first. After all, she cannot sell them all at once. The brother claims that these jewels may have great cultural significance. The little lady replies that she doesn't care, since the emperor has allowed her to keep them. At this time, she thought that she had smuggled most of these things in secret. Nicephorus claims that she needs money and as much money as possible, which she could use as she wants. The girl says that she will spend them on building a ship, and then hire people who will go with her to the Arctic. Hebert asks his sister if she is going to go look for Nathaniel herself. And she replies that since Hybe is busy, that is why she will go personally. And check if the sea giants are really alive. The young gentleman informs her that it will take years to build a large ship. And the girl says that this is excellent since she will have grown up by then. The brother says that she will need about 100 billion. And the little lady suggests selling the jewels for as much as possible. Hebert says that he will then need to hold an auction. And he understands that an auction will not be enough, and to find something that will attract a lot of attention. At this time, the main character thought that it would be easy, since she would get anything from the Emperor of the Great Sage and the Lord of the Magic Tower. After a few days, the Tower of the Sages is a sacred abode of all kinds of learning, research, and philosophy. The scholars associated with the tower are focused on their own research, but they have a common interest. And this is the country of Atlantis, which existed in ancient times. The sages envy the dragon princess's ability to understand the language of the ancient giants. And some sages even distrust her. A man in a green robe reports that the dragon princess is selling artifacts of the sea giants. And at the same time, those who have dedicated themselves to magic have gathered in the magic tower. And there are also those who are engaged in constant disputes. And this is an interest in magic and ancient Atlantis. Atlantean magic is very rare in their time, and some mages are extremely interested in the ancestor of the dragon princess Nicephorus, Risaean. The magicians say among themselves that they need to save up money and buy what the princess is selling. They also dream of buying artifacts from the sea giants. The head of the Imperial Palace's History Protection Department fainted from shock when he learned that the dragon princess wanted to sell cultural artifacts at an auction. The magician says that they'd better go to the auction and buy everything, since they have a big budget. And another magician says that the applications for using the budget are already ready, and the employees have already submitted applications for using the budget. After some time, the long-awaited day of the auction came, and at this time, the main character felt very excited. Because for this day, she received things from the Emperor of the Great Sage and the Lord of the Magic Tower. The girl understands that she will receive a 5% commission from the sales of these items. Suddenly, the prince takes the little lady in his arms and invites her to go with him. When the girl saw her brother, she asked if many guests had come. He answered that many had come, and if he was interested, he could see them in person. The main character took Zion by the hand and suggested to look together. When she looked behind the curtains, she saw many people. The prince says that many people have come from the Tower of the Sages and the Magic Tower, and there are also many from the Department of Historical Protection. The little lady says that people from other countries have come here, and at that time she thought that she would be able to collect the necessary amount. Hybert announces that the auction will begin soon and then takes the girl away so that she will not peek anymore. He suggests that she quickly go to her place. Nicephore says that she could have simply told her brother how many people had come, and she would have seen them soon anyway. Suddenly, the main character saw Helio, and she doesn't understand what he's doing there. And at that time, she thought that she still wanted to go and see him. The girl looks at the guy and does not understand how she can approach him and whether it will be possible to get only Helio out of there. At this time, the prince saw the interested girl and asked where she was looking. Hearing this, the main character thought that Zion did not like Helio. Sorceress replies that she is not looking at anything, and then says that the auction is beginning. The main character looked at the men who were sitting, and she doesn't understand why they came if they're not doing anything. She wonders if they'll sit like this until the end. Helio noticed the girl, and in response she smiled at him and waved her hand. Zion asks the princess if she is hungry, and then tells her that he was told that they prepared a snack, and he asks if she will have one. The girl replies that she wants to eat, and at that moment she thought about the fact that she did not even have breakfast. The prince takes the meat and offers to feed the girl. The surprised lady says that he is the crown prince and then asks if he can feed her like that. His Majesty speaks of what he often did in the palace. However, the girl assures that they are not in the palace now, but she still agrees, and he feeds her. And at that time, the main character thought that the prince was polite and caring to her, and he was also handsome, cool, and even sweet. And he would be an ideal husband, and she wondered how many girls would run after him when he grew up. Zion looked at the little lady and asked what she was thinking about so deeply. She replied that she was thinking about the luck of the one who marries him. The prince does not understand why she wants him to marry another, and then says that he has a princess for this. Nicephore announces that the crown prince and the dragon princess are to be bound together, but not married, and he must find the one he loves. Hearing this, the prince became sad, and the girl thought that she had done something wrong. And she ponders that maybe she made him feel abandoned and she does not understand how she can fix it. Helio approaches them and greets His Highness and the princess. The prince asks warily what the priests of the fallen religion needed, and then says, "Who would have thought that those who should pray, steamed up in their temple, would come to ordinary people?" The blonde boy replies that it is God's blessing, and they came because they heard there would be a special item at the auction. At this time, the main character does not understand what kind of atmosphere this is, and Zion said that some smell has clung to her, and for this reason. His Highness reports that he recently sent a gift to La Mer and then asks if they received it. Helios replies that because of this, many innocent believers were left homeless. Zion claims that he could use some humility from them. However, the fair-haired boy objects and says that believers are not sinful. Hearing this, the main character thought that she needed to try them on, and then she said that she was glad to see Helio. The girl says that she was told that there was some kind of smell left on her then, and she asks if he knows what it is. The blonde boy explains that it was an accident, and it seems the smell was left because he put a blood blessing on her, and that's why she was uncomfortable. Nicephore. Hearing this says that it is not on purpose, and therefore she understands him, and then says that she will talk to him separately. After some time, the prince informs Nikki that the total amount of the auction has already reached 10 billion. Hearing this, the main character thought that with this money, she would be able to find her brother Nathaniel. Hybert tells his sister that it's time for the speech he was talking about. He then says that before they continue, they'll give the floor to the dragon princess who made today's auction possible. Nathaniel thanks them aristocrat this for coming today. And then he gives his name and tells the reason why she arranged this auction. The girl says that she will speak about this for the first time, and instead of sending a third search ship to the Arctic, she wants to build a military ship herself. The main character says that she will find sea giants that live somewhere in the Arctic and find the missing people through them. And then she asks if there is anyone in the room who wants to go with her. But suddenly, her brother takes the microphone from her and says that he will answer their questions if they have any. At this time, the girl thought that she had told everything, and now it was Heiberg's turn. And she would like him to finish with some beautiful words. 5 days later, the Emperor says that he regrets not having seen it with his own eyes, because he heard people say it was very impressive. Nathaniel explains to His Highness that they are all exaggerating, and he asks if she is going to build a ship with this huge amount of money. The main character replies that her brother has already found a shipbuilding company, and she says that she is going to recreate the ancient ship of Atlantis. The Atlantean warships were sleek, strong, and fast, and there is one feature that can immediately identify such a ship, and that is the figurehead, made in the shape of a man. At this time, the princess thought about who she should hang on her ship, Hybert or Zion. His Majesty asks the princess if she knows what happened to Zion that day at the auction. Nicephore replies that she knows nothing and that she was informed that he had a very long conversation with the Cardinal of La Meurthe. And if he knows, then why is he asking her? At this time, the main character thought about what Sionas had Helio had a fight, and she doesn't want to talk about it. The Emperor says that the prince is very depressed these days and he works a lot. The girl says that is why he is here humming to himself. His Majesty explains that she must understand him correctly, since he took it because he wanted to learn to work, and he did not force him. The girl thought about how after the auction, Zion never came to the Pearl Palace, and it was probably because he was so busy. Keortan says that the prince was probably offended by something, and he remembers how he came to the Pearl Palace every day, no matter how busy it was. Nicephorus says that the prince is probably just very busy because the New Year's banquet is coming soon. His Majesty says that everyone will be wearing masks at the banquet this time, so he must have a lot of work to do. Hearing this, the female lead thought about how he could talk like that, as if it wasn't his job at all. And the Emperor probably isn't just having fun. The princess reflects on the fact that she likes orange light and she will need to make a mask of the same color. She also needs to order something before the New Year's banquet. The girl says that she wants to order something, but in such a way that Xion and Hibi don't know about it. And then she tells the Emperor what it is. His Highness wrote it down and said that he would order it to be prepared as soon as possible. A few days later, on the New Year's banquet day, the main character looked at the decorations and thought that at first she wanted to make it as a piercing, because some people pierce their ears because of this. Adele reports that the weather is very fine today, and then asks if her mistress will be going on a boat ride. The main character claims that she will be the only one on the ship. The maid heard this and said with surprise that it was dangerous, and the little lady suggested that she not worry. And then she explained that she would call Zion if she was in danger. And at that time, she thought that he would definitely not be able to avoid her. The maid did her mistress's hair and says that everything is ready, and then suggests that she be careful. The Count says that he has come to see Her Highness off, to see him at the princess call his name, and he says that it is an honor for him that she remembers his name. Nicephore tells the master to give her a mask. Then she asks what happened to his hair color. Lucas explains that this color has become fashionable lately, and young girls want to be like her. And young guys want to be like Mr. Nathaniel, and that is why this color is popular. The Count says that this color was developed by the senior mage of the magic tower named Jackalot. At this time, the main character thought that this idiot still can't get rid of her. Lucas asks Her Highness if she knew about it, and explains that he thought that she did not change her hair color, because she already knew that many people now walk around with the same color, and says that now on the bank most of the young girls have the same hair color as hers. Hearing this, the main character thought that everything was lost, because she did not understand how Zion recognized her then. At the banquet, the young ladies talk about how everyone has the same hair color, and they are worried because they won't be able to recognize the princess if she were standing right in front of them. The girl with green hair says that, according to rumors, the princess is very beautiful and sweet, and she will become a real beauty when she grows up. But the other one claims that Countess Betelgeuse is also very beautiful, and she is the only daughter of the Prime Minister with a goatee. And she turned 9 this year, but she has already gathered friends around her, and when she grows up, she will definitely go far. Nicephorus looked at the young girls and thought that they looked like turtles who had gone out to sunbathe. And then she decided to look for Zion. Suddenly, a girl with green hair comes up to her and asks her name. And the main character wonders why she needs to know. And at that moment, she thought that she didn't like that she was looking at her. The princess says that her name is Terasa. Hearing this, the lady says that she has an unusual name, and she hears it for the first time. The girl with green hair says that she thinks that this lady is the first time at such an event, and therefore invites the main character to go with her. And the other girl says that she will be laughed at if she goes alone. The lady with green hair reveals that her name is Lasayana Betelgeuse, and then asks what Tarasa's last name is. The princess says that she can't say the last name because they are out of town. And at that moment, she thought that little children are very cute. Lasayana announces that dancing is about to begin, and usually at parties where children are allowed to participate, the little ladies and gentlemen are the first to dance. Then she suggests that the protagonist see who she wants to dance with. Then she says that she needs to be smart, otherwise she will have to dance with anyone. Her friend says that. Her friend says that Terasa won't be able to attend parties often until she officially debuts in society, and therefore suggests choosing carefully. And on such a day, you need to create wonderful memories. Hearing this, the main character thought that at first she had no idea about dancing, but the little turtles told her everything in such a way that now she cannot disappoint them. Lasayana explains that at first everyone dances in one line, and after the group dance, she will have to choose a boy with whom she wants to dance. And if she doesn't know something, she can just repeat after them. The princess thought that she had no training in dancing, but she thought she could do it. And then she began to dance. Suddenly, a boy with black hair steps on her foot, but she calms him down and says that it's okay because she's not a good dancer either. Lasayana asks the princess to dance with her, and she agrees. And at this time, the countess suggests that the girl beware of the blonde boy sitting next to her because he keeps looking at her. However, the girl does not understand why and asks if it is bad that he is watching. The countess explains that it is Bane and his henchmen who push and beat weak children. Hearing this, the main character thought that Bane was related to this scoundrel. And it turns out that the girl invited her to dance to tell her about it. And she does not understand why the lady with green hair is so cute. The main character asks the countess if she asked her to dance, because if she hadn't said so, it could have hurt her. And then she smiled. Lasayana says that the girl shouldn't laugh so openly and needs to be more serious. And then she says that these guys pick on kids like her who aren't used to such events and bully them. The princess bends the girl, and then asks if she is okay. The surprised countess says that she is fine. And then she goes away and asks her mother if she danced well. Nisafor looked around and realized that all the children came with their parents. Suddenly, some ladies approach her and ask what family she is from. They ask her to tell her name. Hearing this, the main character thought that they had guessed that she was the Princess of Dragons. And at that time, she thought that it was time for her to reveal that she was a princess. And after that, she would intimidate the guys who had offended Lasayana. At this time, the prince comes to her and says that he was looking for her. And then they went sailing on a boat. The princess asks His Majesty if he saw how Count Carot's nephew hit Lasayana, and he asks if she wants him to call him and scold him. However, the lady objects and says that they need to find a moment to shame him. The prince says that he doesn't want this, and says that just the thought that she will talk to him makes him want to kill him. Nisafor thought that he had such thoughts because of Togo, that she had not seen him for a long time, and Sion seemed unstable. And then she tells the prince that no one asked him to say such things. The young gentleman says that he hasn't seen her for a long time and therefore couldn't restrain himself, and then apologizes. The girl explains that the boy was wrong, but not so wrong that he should be killed. After all, he is still a child, and he just needs to be taught a lesson. The prince says that his little lady is right as always, and she asks why he is unhappy again. And then she explains that they haven't seen each other for so long, and that's all he tells her. And at that moment, she thinks that since he is the one, she will reach out to him. Nisafor suggests that the prince tell her why he was angry and did not see her, and then explain that she cannot figure it out herself. Zion says that he was wrong, and the girl suggests that he not do it again. And since she was worried, and every day she thought about whether to go to him or not, and she did not know what to do.